to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are we on or do we know?
Hard telling, not knowing.
We are.
All right, so apparently, go over the old board business. Is that what we're after here, my dear?
That's where we're at, yep.
Okay. The minutes of last meeting, anybody have any questions or concerns on them?
No.
No, I'm good. I don't know, he says a great job, I'm fine with whatever she wrote.
Ed?
I signed them, they're good.
Oh, geez, big difference from the last guy who sat there. I have no problem either. Motion to accept the minutes as written.
So moved.
Second. Aye.
All right. Do we need two of these?
Those in
Ryan?
favor?
Aye.
No, you don't need two of those this one, thank you.
Okay. Any new mail?
The only thing new that came in was just that letter to the editor in the Lowell Sun.
Is this 4 signatures?
You can sign it. Yeah.
Well, did we already sign this?
No, this is for the lot releases.
Yeah, those were the lot releases you approved last meeting.
There's 2 here. Did you sign this?
No, you don't have to sign
I
the second.
just need the one signed, thank you.
So you just need this?
Yeah.
All right. Has the bills and payroll all been taken care of?
They're going around.
Hi, Richard.
Morning, gentlemen. Afternoon. Evening.
Evening.
Long day.
All right, we worked our way down to D, master plan update. Would you like to take over there, Mr. Chairman, or you want me to continue?
Continue for a minute, please.
We've been to a few meetings, hence the master plan. Well, this is the steering committee? And it's actually been going pretty well. We had a gentleman from MassPac, is that how you pronounce it?
MAPC.
MAPC, yeah. He came and talked to us for a while, gave us some information as how they go about helping a town go through the process of writing a new master plan and such. Some of the fees involved with it. It was informative, and a number of the board, there was 11 of us, I believe, we quizzed him pretty extensively. I think he was on the hot seat more than he was on the cold seat. And the bottom line of it is really we need some more participation from the audience, which a few times Paul had turned around and said, could you please scan the chairs, and they were empty. So we definitely need, if anybody's watching this tonight, we need some participation from the townspeople. So if you could show up for some meetings, it'd be great. And otherwise than that, then things have been going really well for what the steering committee is going for, and I think we're progressing well. But still, regardless, we need more participation.
We already signed this one, that was the last, so we're good. We're good with
We've
that.
worked our way up
Joey
to the
signed it.
orchards. Richard, you're up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see. Orchard, McIntosh Lane Inspection Report. Mary, do you want to give us an update on that?
Well, actually, on inspection reports, the subdivision approval for McIntosh Lane says that the construction inspections are not complete until you've accepted the reports. So I just put it on there for you to accept. There were some concerns about the erosion control and siltation barriers. I did forward that information to Amy Green, the conservation coordinator for the Conservation Commission, and she's following up on that.
All right. Is there any action we need to do tonight on this?
Just vote to accept the report.
Okay.
Well, we haven't heard back from her about the siltation control yet, correct?
That's a follow-up that they would be doing, yeah.
We can accept the report on the condition that follow-up comes through.
Sure.
I'll, I'll,
We
um,
making a motion?
I'll entertain a motion to accept the report on the condition that the follow-up comes through.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good, thank you. Now we have the point.
Now you have Corey.
Corey Godfrey,
Yes.
that's right. Hey,
Hi,
you're welcome, welcome to our planning board. First time you've been here.
yes, I'm happy to be here finally. So my name is Corey Godfrey, I'm the environmental analyst with the water department.
Yeah,
And I started working there last February, almost a year and a half ago. It's about time to meet you all. Over that past year and a half, I've been involved in some of the site plan reviews, reviewing stormwater management reports, and I send comments to Marin on that. I don't know if you all see those or not. Or
We do.
yes.
So I'm glad to be involved in that way. As you all know, that's an important part of the water department's groundwater protection program. And so another important piece of that groundwater protection program is the monitoring wells that you may or may not be aware of. It's been several years since any of those have been installed or monitored. I think the program started about 30 years ago with Savastanos when he first started working with the water department back in the early 80s. And so the purpose of those wells is really just to serve as an early warning system of any potential contamination to the town's water supply. And they're, required as part of the special permits for Aquifer Water Resource District developments. And so what I wanted to just talk about very briefly here tonight is just our intention to resume that program. It's been at least 6 years since any of the wells have been monitored. That's mostly just due to a lack of staff time at the water department. There hasn't been an environmental analyst there since 2009, until I started last year. And so one of my many responsibilities is to reestablish that program and get it going again. And so what I've done over the past several months is I've worked with Marin on gathering up all of the special permits for the properties that already have wells installed. And I've gone out, I contacted the landowners and let them know that we're going to resume the monitoring. I've gone out and actually located all of the wells. And beginning next month, plan on actually going out and doing a thorough inspection and potentially maintenance if that's required on some of the wells, and some of them might be a little bit deteriorated after several years of not being monitored. And then we'll collect samples and reestablish a sort of baseline of water quality at all those sites. Since it's been several years, we'll just make sure that everything looks okay. And then based on those results, we'll put together a new sampling plan, sort of a schedule of when we plan to monitor each well. And that'll depend on the results of the initial sampling. If there's a greater risk on a particular property, we might want to monitor it maybe twice a year at the most. Other sites where there's no apparent risk, we might put on some kind of reduced monitoring schedule, maybe once every 2 years, something like that. So there's
Some of
those
these wells haven't been inspected for 7 years?
Some of them, yeah. Well, yeah, none of them have been inspected for at least 7 years. So some of them may have been damaged beyond repair. Some of them may be in perfect condition. Some may just need a little bit of maintenance. From what I've seen so far, just going and identifying the locations, they all seem to be in halfway decent condition. But we won't really know for sure until we get look inside of them. So.
How many wells are there that you inspect, or should have been inspected? How many are?
There's 64 monitoring wells that were being sampled back in 2009, so that's where we're going to pick back up, is look at all those 64 wells this year.
Don't we pass some of the agreements that wells are monitored on a regular basis when we pass numerous special permits and such for?
Right, but that's kind of what Corey was alluding to. The water department didn't have staffing and funding available to actually carry out that special permit.
Well, then don't we think we ought to turn around and set that if the monitoring well is necessary on a property, that we approve things, that their finances are in place to have them monitored? I mean, 7 years is a long time to go with oil or
Right,
runoff.
The department does bill back the landowner is billed by, I'm not saying it's the right.
Yeah, the property owners, they bear all the costs of the monitoring and the maintenance of the wells. So that's why I contacted the property owners a few months ago and let them know that we're going to be resuming this. this program and gave them an opportunity to contact me with any questions or
So for
concerns.
7 years, these haven't been monitored.
Right. Actually, if you look at the special permit language, it's, the property owner is required to allow monitoring. The water department's not required to monitor. So we could decide not to. That's sort of where the, development of a unique sampling schedule for each well comes into play. We might, based on the perceived risk at the site, we might only monitor every once in a great while, or we might monitor more frequently. Or if there's no perceived risk whatsoever, then we might just not monitor at all. So for example, there's actually over 100 wells in town that have been installed over the past 30 years or so. And, 30 or 40 of them, at one point in time or another, it was determined that they were no longer needed to be monitored. And some of those are because of a change in use at the property, and others are just, after decades and decades of no risk, and it was just determined that they didn't need to be monitored anymore.
That's interesting. We put 2 at the middle school when we built the middle school.
Yeah,
You're right, I don't believe they've ever been touched.
yeah, they might not have been,
Can we start with those?
yeah. We could.
When you went out and located all the wells, did you find that any of the wells, when you were doing that part, were in disrepair that needed attention more than others?
There's a couple that look like they might be potential problems. You can tell that so there's different kinds of wells, some that are flush with the surface of the ground, some that actually rise a couple of feet above, and some of the ones that come above the ground look like they've been hit by snowplows and they're a little bit leaning to the side, but we can't tell just from that visual inspection if there's any damage to the subsurface, so that'll come next.
That information will be very helpful.
Yeah, I think so. And like I mentioned, it's an important part of the groundwater protection program. And actually, that Littleton's groundwater protection program, I don't know if you're aware, but it was developed before the state had a program at all. And so the state actually modeled parts of their statewide program on Littleton's. So it was sort of at the time, back in the early 80s.
Can we get the state to pay us for some of this stuff? Seeing as how we have to sometimes hire state people to come to do work for us, and we have to pay them. So what say we
That
bill the
would be
state?
nice, yeah. There's a lot of things the state requires of the water department we'd love them to pay for, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way.
Well, that's good. We'll continue to request or require monitoring wells. And we'll probably work closely with you going forward to make sure that they're in the best spot.
Yeah, that would be great. And over the past 6 or 7 years, I know there's been, I don't know how many, that my next step is to look at the number of special permits that have been issued since then that required monitoring wells that haven't been installed yet. So the next step would be to potentially install additional wells at newer sites.
A lot of the special permits were renewals or other companies bought the
Yeah.
buildings and things. So the wells were always, always there. Are you going to be available for some of our meetings? When we had Debbie Bray back in 2009, if we had a special permit that was sensitive to the well areas, usually Debbie would come, and obviously that's an impact on the water department because they have to pay you to come at night, but sometimes it was helpful because she was lead here and knew what was going inside the building and heard it firsthand, so.
Yeah, I'd be available. I'm on salary, so the water department doesn't have to pay me any extra for that, but yeah, I'm available to come. So if there's any special concerns or questions or anything like that.
Great.
Great.
That's great.
Yeah, and we did sit down with Scott Edwards, the manager of the Light and Water Departments, and he was very supportive of the work that Corey's doing, and very glad to be going on this again. So I think the Water Department is really behind what Corey's doing.
Yeah.
Are you monitoring the point, by the way? Aren't there wells that are going in for the point as well?
I believe the special permit for that property probably requires some monitoring wells. I don't know as though they've been installed yet, so that'd be something we would work with the owner or their consultant on doing after everything's sort of built out, or potentially before that if
What about the police station as well, by the way? It's right.
Oh, please do.
For the record, Tim Power, owner's project manager for the Point project. I think there are 6 active wells that are installed for the wastewater treatment system that we have to do monitoring to satisfy that piece. I think there's 5 wells downstream of the underground leach fields, in between the leach field and the drinking water well, and 1 upstream so we can monitor it. So I'm not sure your office is copied on those, but we certainly get on the list because we send it to DEP on a monthly basis, and then there's other tests that happen quarterly and annually. So we show when you get.
Yeah, I believe we get copies of those. Those are specific to the wastewater treatment plant, I believe.
Okay.
So some properties have other wells installed to monitor for other potential issues on the property, things, stormwater infiltration, and at that property right now, I'm not aware of any other potential issues, but in other more industrialized sites, there might be other concerns.
Sure.
How deep do the wells usually go?
It depends. They're all different. Depends on how deep the groundwater is at that location, but they tend to be anywhere from 15 to 30 feet, somewhere around there.
You're in the groundwater?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you monitor the elevation of the groundwater at the same time?
Yes, we do. Yep. We do the elevation and then do different parameters depending on the site, but.
So you'll be able to tell if the aquifer is up or down, or?
Yeah, we can tell if the
Marginal.
groundwater level's up or down. We can tell that at our production wells as well, so we always kind of have a
Okay.
general idea, but that gives us more fine-tuned
Yeah.
information.
Yeah. Very good. Sure, a lot of people will find this very interesting.
Corey, thanks for picking this up, and thanks for coming here tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for doing the plan review for us.
Sure, no problem.
Great. It's 7:45, and we have Tim Power from The Point to give us an update and a request.
Yes, I'm going to plug in here. It doesn't work, I have boards as a backup. Not sure if I need to do anything on my end.
Oh, look at this.
Okay.
Technology today, huh?
Yep. So we'll just start with this, and then there's a couple other images I can flip to for reference. But so two things that we're here for tonight. And I can obviously give any update if there's any other specific questions. But one, Maren brought to our attention, we had submitted for a building permit for Building G, as shown here, sort of our front door building. And we have engaged with a bank user who's looking to have a drive-up window. And Maren raised that as it wasn't originally specifically noted on the site plan approval. Although I think we've presented, this sort of plan, and I can't recall, in my notes, I may have presented an elevation of the building that showed a drive-up window, but we may have, I don't know if we actually addressed it specifically. So on this picture, the top half of the building there would be the bank user, and then the lane that goes right by it would be the drive-through. And I actually have a more specific site plan here we can look at right on this building. So, the second piece that I'll get to after we discuss this one is that we are getting ready to submit for Building C as well, and we have to do a little bit of a square footage swap because the building is just, the tenant needs and emergency corridors have pushed it up over the allowable limit. But so I'll jump back to Building G here to start for this piece. So, and these are the plans on here is the same that's in the packet I sent to Maren ahead of time, so you can look a little closer.
Where's the drive-through?
The drive-through, let's, I have any markers here, I don't know if I do.
It's in the back, right?
This piece right here, that you're looking through is the drive-through. The little island in the middle, the two squares are just the columns for the canopy. There'll be a canopy over the majority of this drive, and then up against the building is the window. The gray circular wall, by the way, we needed to install that just to get this pad up to grade, and that wall is installed today. You can drive by and see it. It's a nice stone, New England fieldstone wall. Look.
That went up fast.
We see it all the time.
It went up fast. We did, just a quick story, we found a user who's local, he may be in Acton, but he actually does the majority of the wall work in his yard as like a precast item, and it comes and sort of drops it in place like Legos, so it
Totally cheated.
goes up very fast, yeah. But it looked great
Looks good.
when it's done.
So Tim, I still can't figure out this drive-through. Where is that?
Sure. Take a look at the screen. I'm going to zoom right in.
Okay.
So this here, this piece, the two squares on that center lane are columns, that a canopy will be up above. To the left wall there is the window. You can see sort of the bump out for where the drive-up window will be. And as I zoom out here, see where it goes in reference to the lane. So the wall we were just speaking of is where the circle is now on the site plan.
Yeah.
So this
All
is
right.
sort of on a,
Okay, I'm good. I see, because I see a note here that says landscape area, and that's really not landscape, that would be paved. Keep a little larger. A little
oh, yeah,
larger.
yeah, that's a great point. Sorry. Never caught that in my review.
Now-
It may have been that island was a little bit longer
Yeah.
in one iteration. so
Okay,
that's-
now I'm clear.
Okay,
Good.
great.
So, you're here for,
So I'm not sure if this piece is a formal modification or just a confirmation that it's within the, no change to the site plan approval that we have. This piece.
well, to be careful, we could entertain a motion to endorse a site plan modification.
Does the board have any questions about it first?
Did you say, I do, on the drive-through, did you say there was going to be a canopy over the drive-through?
Yes.
And that's not in this drawing?
I can bring up an elevation to show you, but it goes, those two squares are where the canopy
Pillars.
drops, and it goes just maybe halfway over this outside pass lane. It's on the right side of that plan.
Is there, do you have an elevation drawing with you that we could see?
I have to back out of some information here. Is it in the packet I sent as well?
That building is G?
G,
Yeah, it's
Right in the front.
the next page at the top right. Elevation 4, yeah.
G.
so at the bottom of the page also is
Yes, but
the
where's,
front of the building, if you will, you can see the canopy on the right.
No.
that's what's-
On the east elevation, I can see,
Yes.
Any other questions? Mark, Jerry, Peter?
I have a question. This plan shows the building G without this rotary in there. Can you show us how the building G is gonna interact with the rotary in the picture that you have there? Because that site plan doesn't have the rotary.
Yes.
Just to walk us through, because right now, the rotary is kind of free and clear, and how is this gonna impact?
Sure. So this is the rendering here, and the fine details may be a little different, but this shows the rotary. You can see Building G, and on the top of it, as you look at the plan, is where the drive-through lane will be. So there's a fair amount of distance from where you would come out of the drive-through and take a left to go down to the circle. Similarly, if you're coming up from the rotary, that you'd be able to see the drive-through to the right. Now, there's trees on this rendering which will not actually be there, because there's not quite enough room.
So
Actually,
that's right on the spur that goes directly up to
Market
Market
Basket.
Basket. So this will have to go into the flow of Market Basket, come out to the rotary.
Yes, and it'll be a, it's only one way out into that road, so no one's, can't turn into it to the right.
Well, originally, obviously, so you're telling me you're gonna sneak this building here right up to the curb, that line of green trees, and what are the red dots there? Those?
They were umbrellas, they were artistic.
Those are gone?
Yeah, on the.
Trees
bottom-
are gone.
On the bottom side, the umbrellas will stay. We do have a plaza plan there. We're trying to,
When you say the bottom, is that the top of, the center of the,
below the letter G.
five?
Below the letter G there,
those are staying or those are going?
they're staying. We will have a plaza there we're trying to lock in a restaurant use on that edge.
Which is the future tenant?
Yes.
Okay.
So just, so we're clear, your traffic flow goes like this, right? Around the rotary, in through here, this is exit only.
Yes.
Drive-throughs through here, so you come in, exit this way, take a left and come out, and nobody can come in that way,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Going back.
Yeah.
Just wanted, but the only difference I had was that it was different on the plan, that's all.
But we're also not gonna have any there's going to be no tree buffers to that whole parking lot. There's no trees there at all anymore, that's what you're telling me.
I see Peter's point, yeah.
Well, I guess I want to clarify. So the 3 trees right at the top corner of the building, right at the intersection of your leaving the drive-through and taking a left, those 3 trees, I'm not sure will fit. But all the other trees,
And below the 3,
So, yeah,
these are all staying. This, I'm not sure we'll have tall trees because we have the wall and we'll have some lower planting, but there's room for some lower planting. And then there is an island here that will remain with trees, and the parking lot islands will remain. So the only tree, these are the only small spot I said that I'm implying
okay,
won't fit trees.
I'm good with that as
So
far as sites.
the trees that are in the island in the parking lot will remain?
Yes,
Okay,
there's no reason not to take them out.
all right, good, good.
In fact, I think they're installed today. So-
Okay.
What type of trees are these? I mean, those look like bird's eye, they could be anything, but what kind of trees are they?
I don't know the actual species, they're a deciduous tree, a shade tree.
Palm
Very
trees,
good.
right? Palm trees.
Oh, heated floors.
Sorry?
Okay, any more questions?
Are you sure your boss knows about this? Because he's always told us that's the signature building on this whole property. You're gonna have a white linen restaurant there. It's gonna be the focal point as you come into the point. He knows there's a,
Oh, yeah, he knows, yeah,
Okay,
he
just wanna
signs
make sure I don't
documents.
want you to
So
get in trouble
that's-
with your boss.
That's why the plan that showed the vacant tenant that someone said is
No,
we're
I'm only-
holding out that one.
I know,
Yeah,
next to the bank.
next to the bank.
next to the bank.
So it's really gonna be a white linen, so you go to the bank and you take some
Borrow
money
the money
out
to
to
go to
go
the
and have
restaurant.
dinner. So the locals won't be able to eat there.
We decided everyone's
Or
going
just
to
a
use
few
the
of us
ATM and pay for their meal and get a loan at the same time.
There you go.
Well, any comments from the audience? Hearing none? I'd entertain a motion to approve the modification to the site plan.
I'd like to make a motion pending that they provide us with an updated site plan that shows it, so that we can publish it and have the public see it.
Sure. Updated color site plan like this or black and white plan? Sure.
Color,
Okay.
So that'll be part of the motion, part of your motion?
please. Yep,
All right, so are you making the motion, Ed?
I did.
Good.
I made the motion.
We have a motion on the
To
floor.
approve.
Do we have a second?
I second Ed's
Any discussion?
concerns.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed, the ayes have it.
Okay, and then I have a little paperwork, I guess, numbers to review with you. So, you know, we are going to be submitting for Building C for a building permit. This table is in a letter I provided tomorrow in the email, which looks like you have on the second page. So I'm going to start with I'm going to move over to this. The previous modification we did under the column labeled prior total is what the board had previously approved and what we had done. We had done something like this for the hotel previously. We swapped some of our approved square footage, moved it over to the hotel pad so that, because the hotel was bigger than our original retail building when we first showed up. So fast forward to today, on Lot 1, the first section you see there, D, E, and F buildings are up. The gross square footage is established. G, obviously, the plans are complete as well. So I've adjusted all those to real numbers and real uses, and you can see the net change to the right. Building C has come out that it wants to be just under 42,500 square foot total, which is shown as under the Lot 4 block there. Previously, we only had 40,000 square feet adjusted, so we've pulled a little bit from one of the future buildings, J, for now. And so project total overwise, net change is 0, just sort of moving allowable square footage around. Again, at no time does any single lot have more than the 60,000 square feet of retail use per the approvals.
Is the drainage already in most of the areas for these buildings?
Drainage is in for lots 1, 2, 3, and 4, which I can go back to the site plan, walk you through, is installed, which is our Phase 1, we've been calling Phase 1 areas. There are 3 surface detention ponds and 2 subsurface systems in the ground to service all of these buildings that are going up now.
Do you have a drawing that shows the lots?
I do not have a lot plan,
Okay.
however, I can sketch them if you like. They're a little bit funny, so, using the road as a basic delineation. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a cul-de-sac here. Kind of doing them by memory, so
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Isn't D already built?
Yes, D, E, and F are the ones that are almost completed now.
Is there anything in B,
The shell is up, but there's no
tenant?
tenants yet, no occupants yet.
So
What's up with that?
Built outside of spec?
Yes, they're built to just a
Harold?
shell spec.
At your risk.
Yep.
When you increase the square footage, I mean, I know the overall square footage is staying the same on site, but when you increase the square footage of one building, you have to consider re-engineering the drainage from the building into the ground, right?
We do, and I can go back and pull the numbers out for you if you like, but I think what we did is we assumed a larger footprint on these buildings, an impervious area. We didn't use just to the T of the site plan approval. We added some buffer, knowing that some of the buildings weren't fully designed, and, you know, sort of assumed that the entire pad that you see on these buildings were impervious as far as storage goes, so whether they're
I
a
think
little
when
bit
we
bigger and
originally
smaller.
did it, was we
Yeah.
did 50,000 square foot blocks,
Okay.
and then let them kind of figure out early on where, because nobody knew how it was going to lay out, so we did it, I think it was 50,000 square foot blocks.
So Mark, you feel like he's still lower than the parameters we did? Okay, that was where I was going, so
Well, I got a
if there's history that I don't know of, great.
When you're adding 2,500 square feet to seat, you got enough linear footage on each side of that building not to impede the roadway? What are you giving up?
Yes, we do. I guess it's on 2 floors, so it's
All right. It's a two-story building.
2-story building.
That's 1,000 square feet, each, 1,200 each, 1,250.
Yeah, and it's fairly deep. I think it's a 90-foot deep building.
So no real dimensional.
Yeah.
But I think we had enough room there for sidewalks and things. We're not encroaching on the road.
Still have nice wide, 8-foot wide sidewalks everywhere.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, definitely in the
Actually
front.
wider.
Oops, that's my son,
Hey.
sorry.
Nice to meet you, young man.
How old is he?
He's 5 months on Monday,
How old are you?
37.
Crazy bugger.
How old are you?
Older than dirt.
There we go. Okay, I apologize. Here's building C site plan.
Okay, sounds good. We gonna vote on this?
Yeah, I'd entertain a motion to approve the change in dimension.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? The ayes have
So
it.
you're going to take our shovel and get it engraved?
Would you like me to? I will.
I think it would be nice, a nice touch, and we'll display it in the front of our office someplace.
Okay.
We gotta put it, you gotta figure out a way to mount it.
We'll send some language to Maren that just make sure everyone,
So is that from the,
this is from the
groundbreaking?
hotel groundbreaking, actually.
Nice. That'll go,
Set of residence in.
that goes to the
Set
office?
of residence in?
Yeah, Marriott.
Marriott
Oh,
Courtyard.
what? It's courtyard.
Yeah, Marriott Courtyard.
Yeah, I'll give it back tomorrow, and we'll put it up on the ceiling up there when people come up to the
Once you put on a possessor, gets one free night stay, so once in a while, we'll take it out of the cage and go down there.
Okay, we have a, well, thank you very much, Tim.
Thank you.
Yeah. And
Go away.
keep going. All right, we have a site plan modification for 529 King Street, the Gallery, Act 3, Virginia Wood. You're
Do
on
you have
deck.
visuals for this too? Nothing on your computer, so you can show us a little drawings?
We have,
I
a
have it?
we have a drawing in our package.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tim.
It's new.
Is,
That's also new.
That's where is it?
Those are new. Those are new.
is the site plan?
Where is it? This is new?
All right. Is there any questions on the site plan modification?
I had one question, if I may.
Oh, please.
In
Again,
Marin's
could-
document that she sent us, I didn't understand
Could you
something.
identify yourself for the record?
Sorry, let me go up rather than sitting in the back like that. I'm Virginia Wood, owner of the property at 529 King Street. And Marin was good enough to send out a proposed modification language. And I had a question on one of them, which was the one that relates to the Board of Health and the workshops. If I could just get a clarification about what that means, because it wasn't clear to me.
Artwork done on site shall be limited to classes of retail without prior approval of the Board of Health.
Okay, Jim and I discussed that when Jim Garepi provided an email earlier today, and then I updated the decision based on those comments. What he said was that it was just a clarification to him of what was at the site. The artwork that's done there is mostly the educational use. It's not artists, the classes that are done.
So in other words, I couldn't have, like, for instance, one of the things that we had wanted to do when we were supposed to open in September was to have artists giving demonstrations. Does that wouldn't be necessarily a workshop, but it would be educational. Would that qualify?
Well, at that point, what this says is you would go have that discussion with the Board of Health, with Jim Garepi, just because he is concerned about when you have artist materials, if you have oil paints and solvents, just the handling of those is the concern. So this document doesn't limit being able to do that, it just clarifies that if you have that proposed, you do have that need to go to the Board of Health. That need is there whether you have it in this decision or not.
Need to go to the Board of Health. Oh, because in an eating area, is that what you're saying? Associated with food?
No, it's just any site with a septic system. If there
Protection
are
of the groundwater.
some artists that are working on site, if they have solvents and whatever, they have to know how to handle those materials. And it's the Board of Health that takes a look at that.
So you handle it like it's almost a nail salon, in other words, that it goes into a separate tank.
And there's some sort of threshold
Right, they're
where
gonna
it has
check-
that, and that's not within your purview. It's just saying, that discussion needs to
Right.
go to the Board of Health.
So that's nothing we have to contend with.
No.
It's not
It's just an explanation you'll have to fight out with the Board of Health.
So if that's,
So no, go ahead.
so if that's a Board of Health regulation, which is always on the books, then there would be really no need to include it in the site plan modification.
I think the reason it's there is just so that we can recommend that it's done. So,
I tend to agree with Virginia. I don't see the need for it. It's like any other DEP or EPA or Board of Health requirement.
Yeah, if it's another board's
Yeah.
rule, let them deal with it.
Yeah. So we should strike item 3, or condition 3.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll give you Jim's comments in total, so you can see a little more of the,
You don't have a containment tank now, you're using it, just as the restaurant, you have a grease trap, and that's it. Everything
We
goes,
have the grease trap and we have the septic system, and it's a two-field septic system.
But there's no separate no special sinks for the artwork or anything else
No, we
like
were
that?
required to do that when Gwen came in, despite the fact that the state said we're grandfathered. We were required to put in all new grease traps in the kitchen.
Grease traps, but I'm talking about the sinks that the artists use. They don't, they just go into the regular, they go,
Well, they don't really do art on premises. The artists bring in their art and put it up for sale.
so you're not painting anything there.
No. We have workshops, we hope to have workshops come July. We haven't through the month of June. We haven't had any oil painting workshops. We've had probably 8 watercolor workshops and 3 acrylic workshops, at which there are 8 adults.
Oh, okay, wait a minute. This says, artwork done at the site shall be limited to classes retail without prior approval from the Board of Health. You don't need it, it says you don't need it, but what would you need approval from the Board of
I
Health
don't know.
for?
Well, right there, it says it doesn't. That's what got me confused.
that's why I don't
The way
get
it's
it.
worded is,
What is it, what's
I
he
think
saying?
this is too confusing to put into a order of conditions.
What would she need,
classes or retail
why would he write that? I mean,
without prior.
is it something else?
Well, because we use the site plan approval process to get comments from other boards and departments. He's saying that he doesn't have any concern with the use of classes and the retail gallery part of it, but other uses might need to go to the Board of Health first.
When you say classes, classes like painting classes, where they actually paint
Yeah.
paintings?
Right.
So what, how's that different than a workshop? I just don't get it.
No.
I don't get it.
Well, I don't know enough about the Title V to understand.
Want to go back
What the
to
distinction
Rich's
is.
recommendation of striking.
I just say we strike the
Okay,
Article
but
3 if
you
that's
haven't,
consensus
just-
of the board.
yep, I don't have any problem at all with that, just you have the recommendation from Jim that says he would like to see that in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then, any comment from the audience? Any more comments from the board? And I'd entertain a motion to approve the site plan modification as described with the following conditions. The access to the adjacent private driveways is required. Design and flow of the septic system is not to exceed 3,500 gallons per day or 80 seats for food service. The balance of this space to be used primarily for retail instruction, and that the emergency access routes be maintained.
I have one question for her before we finish. Do you have an agreement with the landowner behind you for extra
Roger,
parking?
yep,
You do? And
Yep.
it's on file with us?
yep,
Okay,
yep, and your attorneys have reviewed it.
okay,
The same one we've had for 20 years.
okay. I thought when you came before, she said that you didn't think you were gonna have enough spaces and you weren't gonna need it.
No,
That's,
no, we have more than enough spaces in our own lot that we don't need, Roger, but we're required to have the emergency access, so I still have to pay him rent.
oh, no, I'm talking about parking spaces. I'm not the emergency access out. You have to have that, but I'm talking, you have seats for 80 people, you only have parking spaces for 39 cars.
Right, but we're not asking for 80 seats, so. And if we do go to 80 seats, then we can, because all we're asking for is the outdoor seating.
At this time.
But how many,
Right.
so how many seats will that entail?
20.
It seems that from the wording that I read today, 60 is already allowed, although we have 44 seats right now at Acme Restaurant. We have 44 altogether between the lounge area and the front dining room areas, 25 and 19, and we're asking to add another 20 maximum to the front patio, although it looks to me more like 16. So we're just restacking to see people outdoors.
But you're gonna park for 39 cars.
Yeah, we're okay with the outdoor seating.
Right, in her letter that's in your packet, Virginia had outlined the seating, I'm sorry, the
Calculation
parking
for it.
calculation,
Yeah,
and
she did.
shows that there is sufficient parking on site.
Did a very good
for-
job of that.
For this request.
So if there's no more questions, I'll entertain that motion.
Second.
So we have a,
Need a so moved.
we have a.
So moved,
So
whatever.
moved, and do we have a second?
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Get back to work.
There you go.
Okay. 8:05, we're running a little late. 511 Goldsmith, mixed use. Matt, you're on deck. You're in the water resource and special water resource area, site plan review. Looks like you're going to withdraw and then submit.
Well, they've resubmitted. I would recommend that before you open the public hearing for this new submittal, that they withdraw, that you vote on the withdrawal without prejudice.
First step in this process. Matt, do you have anything very good. Do you have anything to say about the withdrawal of the special permit? Does anybody, any members of the board have any questions in the audience? I'd entertain a motion to accept the withdrawal of the permit
Without prejudice.
without prejudice.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Are we gonna roll the fee from the first one into the second one?
Yes.
You already
Yeah, you
discussed
already
it.
voted on that last?
Okay, just making sure. On the pay twice.
You're reading?
Oh,
No,
Sir?
I'm doing, I gotta read?
yep,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
opening a hearing.
Public hearing, Water Resource District Special Permit, Mixed Use Special Permit 5-11 Goldsmith Street. The Town of Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 11th, 2015, at 10 PM in room 103 at Town Hall, 37 Shattuck Street. Consider application for special permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, and the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning. The applications are for Water Resource District Special Permit and Mixed Use in the Village Common Business District Special Permit to allow construction of mixed-use development with 9 residential units and commercial use at 5-11 Goldsmith Street under Section 173-61 through 173-64, Aquifer and Water Resource District, and Sections 173-164 through 173-166, mixed use of the Town of Littleton zoning bylaw.
Well,
Location, I mean, this is redundant. The applicant proposes to redevelop 2 existing buildings at 5-11 Goldsmith Street with 9 residential units and 1 or 2 commercial units and associate sites improvements, including parking and utilities. Application and plans can be viewed at the planning board and town clerk's office during their business hours. Any person interested in or wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated. The Town of Littleton does not discriminate on the basis of disability. Further, a signed translation of this hearing will be provided for the hearing impaired upon request by contacting the planning board office at 978-540-2425, 1 week prior to the meeting date.
good job.
That being said, I have a question. Hearing impaired is going to call our office?
It is a TT.
Good point.
They can call it a TT line.
Okay.
Very good. All right. Matt, Sherry, you guys want to start?
Actually, I'm gonna let the engineers start. I just want to say, I'm Cheryl Booth, the developer. We have Michael Field on the left, Matthew Field on the right.
Yeah.
This proposal is before you,
May I interrupt you for one quick second? He's my brother-in-law, no relation whatsoever, but one of them is related to me. I have no financial interest in it whatsoever. If anybody has an issue with it, I will step aside.
Sherry?
we have
Matt?
no issue. We did not at the last hearing.
Okay.
So we were here before you on the withdrawn application to kind of convert this site into an 100% residential site with some affordable housing that the town is going to benefit from. And as we proceeded through the process, you have the ability to have peer review and to look at all the drainage of a completely new set of structures on the property, new impervious area, and new parking lot, new septic system. As that progressed through the different phases, it was determined that that wasn't going to work as well as the developer hoped it would. And so we're back to simply a modification of the existing 2 buildings on the site. One of the buildings is going to be renovated to contain 8 apartment units, and we have the floor plans here of the apartments that are being proposed. That's the larger of the 2 buildings. The front building is going to, so the footprint of the larger of the 2 buildings will not change. The front building is also not going to change. And the front building currently houses 2 tenants in the town of Littleton. They're here today. One of them was the prior owner of the property or related to the trust, was a relationship to the prior owner of the property. And the fact that the footprint isn't changing means that everything that was already calculated for drainage is less, not more, and the engineer's going to walk you through that. There will be a new septic system, and the parking improvements will change slightly because we need more parking for residential than they had prior. But I'm going to have the engineer walk you through the site. I've shown you, Matt has just passed out the proposal for the units. And this is Jonathan Markey from Rubin and Markey, the engineers.
Good evening. Sherry kind of wrapped up what the proposal is for the buildings. For the drainage, we redesigned the drainage from our previous design. That has been through a peer review with Luke from Green International. He had some minor comments, some numbers that had carried over from the calculations from the previous design. But in essence, we're reducing the rate of flow to this existing catch basin. This was always, we had many discussions about the location of the existing catch basin on the property owned by, where the post office is, obtaining an easement to cross it and connecting into that existing structure there. Again, still reducing the rate and volume of water that goes to that point and directing flow towards the existing drainage structures out in Goldsmith Street, which we already have an existing drainage connection to those structures that are in the ground. There's already pipes into that structure. So it's just modifying those. So this connection was reviewed by Green International and by DPW. They had no problems with the type of pipe that we're connecting in with the amount of flow that's going into it. So that's actually become a moot point. So the drainage, basically, besides those small things that I need to fix in the drainage calculations for green environmental, the drainage has been agreed upon that there's a reduced rate at this point, and going to Goldsmith Street is still okay with DPW. That's about it for the drainage.
So I don't think there were other issues on the site. The only drainage issues from the last submittal to now was to make sure that we had permission to tie into that drain that's off-site, and we do. We have an agreement with Steve Steinberg's company that owns that property. Now, the only remaining issue, I think, on this, from the peer review I saw, pardon me, I think today you got a few comments back from Board of Health. I think those are strictly Board of Health comments. All the testing's been done for the septic system, but the comments raised by the Board of Health will go before the Board of Health. They're not for this board. And I think there was a fire department comment.
There was.
And that was sprinklers, and that's going to happen.
Yeah.
And then the metering for the water department, that's going to happen. So I think all those are addressed. And the only other issue I want to return to, and it's a sticking issue for the developer, and that is, you've been insistent that one of the buildings or one of the units has to be commercial. And there makes no sense whatsoever in putting commercial in this property today. We have, I think Michael said he counted 17 commercial vacancies.
Not including our,
Not including this 8 in this building, all along the Great Road. This building went up for sale because it was unable to rent, because the people couldn't keep it as a commercial rental. 2 of the vacancies are really eyesores right in the center of town. The one building between the Oriental Market and
Shell.
the Shell station. And, you know, all along my street, there's vacancy signs everywhere. It is not possible today in this economy to rent a commercial space with ideal situations. The secondhand sporting goods store just went out. That's another gaping hole in the downtown scene. And look at, if Donlands can't make it with the Market Basket, which is beginning to look more and more real because of the parking lot is empty all the time, downtown is going to look like a plague hit it. And you can't get a commercial space on this side street. So the bylaw says mixed use was intended to make this a vibrant community. This proposal is intended to create some housing that will populate the downtown in a vibrant way. People who live in this community are going to be strolling through downtown. They're the ones that will attend that Third Thursday. They're the ones that will be out there shopping locally and saying hello to their neighbors when they go out. And it really would be a shame to say that it has to be another vacant commercial space, because the only people that are going to want to rent it are adult bookstores and smoke shops. There is nothing that wants to be around the corner that way and out of sight, out of mind. So we're asking the board once again to consider what the impact of the bylaw intended, and that is to create a vibrant mix of uses in downtown. It's unfortunate that the language chosen said mixed use has to be vertically or horizontally on one lot.
I think that is a misinterpretation. I've got the mixed-use bylaw in front of me, and I'm going to read it to you. And it starts by 173-166. If you go down to item D, ground floors of all buildings fronting streets shall be reserved for commercial uses except as follows. All right? And then when you go down to the exceptions, the second bullet says, the residential portion of the ground floor of the building is set behind the street front retail, or the planning board determines that the street front uses will not have an adverse impact on the continuity of the commercial uses, of the commercial street front uses, that means the next door commercial street front uses, and where street front residential use will not be adversely affected by the proximity to the street and adjacent commercial uses. So I was present when this bylaw was developed, and the question came up, could we have a fully residential building in that district? And the answer from the MAPC people was yes. And this is how that's achieved. It's achieved through this exception, because you're allowed first floor residential use, which is where the only commercial use can be, and based on the planning board's decision as to the adverse impact to adjacent commercial, if there is none, and the street front commercial, which there is none near there, we can allow residential uses to be on the first floor, on the street.
So
Wait a minute.
Oh, timeout.
Time out, yeah. So why don't we just approve the first plan under that? I mean, why we intended,
Because someone had been interpreting this incorrectly.
dude, who interpreted that? That was Council came back and said that.
Read the words.
Richie, council interpreted that. Are you saying you know better than council?
I was there when this was developed.
I don't
was
care.
there
We all
also.
sat in this room when council said
And I
that.
sat there, and Janet Levine asked the question, if somebody bought Concord Co-op and decided not to put a mixed use and bought the building next to it, could they put an apartment complex in there? And the answer was no, because it has to be a mixed use. It couldn't knock all the retail down and just put an apartment complex.
right.
So wait,
very,
that
very
said-
different.
That may have happened as during the process, but this is what we ended up with.
So wait,
We
but just
end
to
up-
make this point, I'm not opposed to that residential, or being all residential. The problem I have is that the bylaw, the way it's written, doesn't address that.
It does. It gives the
Does
planning
not.
board, it gives the
It
plan,
does
if
not,
the,
Richard.
it's an
a
exception.
mixed use, has to have both.
Residential portion of the ground floor of the
Well,
building.
Mr. Crowley, we've been through that, I'm sorry to interrupt. You know that you need, the applicant needs 4 positive votes to get a special permit. If you don't have at least 4 board members that are going that direction, I would suggest we move forward with the application that's in front of you.
The,
Mr. Crowley, let me just say a few words, and that is, the special permit granting authority has the authority to grant special permits with conditions. And the special permit granting authority has the authority to grant waivers. This board does it all the time. We took an over 55 bylaw that required 3 affordable units, and you permitted the developer, because of hard economic conditions, not to keep those 3 units as affordable, but to make a trade with the town in exchange for that. We're sitting here in front of you today, not so much challenging the technical language in the bylaw, but rather looking for a way that this board can either approve a waiver or a set of conditions or anything. I've got 2 persons I don't want to displace out of a unit that they're comfortably situated in order to create another vacant commercial building downtown. And if there's any possible way to find a waiver, an exception, a condition, a way to pigeonhole this in within the bylaw, it makes a lot of sense to do that. It's a shame that the other direction that we went in wasn't pursued to the maximum, because that direction was started, by the way, with an informal meeting between the town administrator and town council, who at that point said it could all be residential. And it wasn't until the end of all of our presentations and after paying peer review that council generated a letter that said it couldn't all be residential. So granted, the first meeting was informal, council hadn't fully vetted and reviewed the statutory language in the bylaw. But I firmly believe that within the special permit granting authorities of your board, and very similar to the way the ZBA grants waivers, very similar to variances, similar to the way that you continually grant waivers on almost every bylaw that's in here, every site plan that comes before you. I think the board has the power to consider this request favorably.
Did we do that?
Sherry, when you said you didn't
Pardon me?
You didn't mean me, though.
We don't grant waivers, helter skelter. You brought up an interesting point, and it's the Donlands issue, okay? Correct me if I'm wrong, but what you do for one person, you have to do for everybody else. So if we grant the waiver and say, okay, it's a mixed use, but we're not gonna look at the mixed use part and say, it doesn't have to be mixed use. The person, so if something terrible happens at Donlands, goes out of business, God forbid. Somebody can come in and buy Donlands and say, I want to put an apartment building there. I don't want to put any retail because I can't rent it, as you put it. I'm just going to put a high-rise in there because the mixed use doesn't matter anymore.
Mark, it's all subject to you, the special permit
No,
granting
it's-
authority.
But if we do it for you, we have to do it
No,
for everybody
I
else.
disagree. Every property is unique.
It
Every
says-
single property is
Yeah.
unique. And you can say that because this property is surrounded by all residential, and because this property is off the commercial beaten path, and because this property has absolutely no impact on the adjacent commercial properties, as Mr. Crowley read in Section D, the last bullet, you can find that here, and may or may not find it with Donlands. Maybe you will find the same thing with Donlands if and when it comes up. But I'm saying every single property is different. You do not establish precedent by saying one property on Goldsmith Street was entitled to some relief because of the circumstances, the economy, the times, and the location, and the uniqueness.
The difference is we're putting a density into that building that is not allowed anywhere else, and the only way it gets that density is by being a mixed use.
Within a bylaw that says, contribute to the vibrant nature of the downtown common by mixing uses.
And you're not mixing uses,
The uses are mixed in the village district.
but it's not in that
I
part of it.
understand that, and I'm asking for an exception on this building.
I think you need
For
to
the reasons
ask
stated.
council
No,
if they agree with that argument, that if we make a decision, if we follow the applicant's
Richard,
recommendation,
I don't
Richard,
have to read it. All I have to hear is that it's supposed to be a mixed use. If you don't have the component of the mixed use, you can't have the density that goes with the mixed use. That's the issue I have. That's the
Why-
only issue.
Why would we be allowed to replace commercial with residential?
Because you're not gonna use as much commercial. You can't get rid of it all. It doesn't say that you can take it all out, does it?
It doesn't limit the fact that you
Yeah,
can't.
it has to be mixed. In
It
order for
doesn't-
something to be mixed,
It doesn't say that you can or you
if,
can't take it all
if you
out.
make a drink and you put vodka and orange juice in there, and you don't put the orange
Well-
juice in, it doesn't become a mixed drink, does it?
This,
I think you
Let
should
me
ask,
drink it straight.
I think you should ask council, if we were to
You know what they're gonna do about it?
provide
Yeah.
a variance.
So-
Correct.
so-
Wait, no,
This is what I wanna know. If we do this, if we do what she's asking, are we hurting ourselves? Let's go with the Donald scenario. If Donald goes out of business tomorrow and someone comes in and says, I wanna put 140 apartments in that space, because we made this decision, would we get taken to task in court? If we said no and we got taken to court, would we lose because we already ruled it? And I wouldn't take anybody's word for it
Can I
other than
propose
council.
something else too? While we're discussing this, my thought is, I'm in agreement with the waiver idea. On top of that, if we're looking to get something out of nothing, just like we've done in the past with the cell towers and get monies that go directly to the CPC, is there a way we can grant a waiver for a fee that goes into town funds?
For
Therefore,
mitigation.
if we set a precedent, and then somebody does come in and looking for it,
So, okay.
putting it out there.
And I would also point out that this is exactly what that inclusionary bylaw for affordable housing was supposed to address, which we gave up on as of last meeting. You understand that, right? We have no mechanism to do that unless they volunteer to put it in CPC.
that's, I think, what's being suggested here.
that's what,
Either that, or like Jerry's suggesting, that we, if the proposers want to wait a month and come back with, and we get a decision
I don't
from,
want to keep going back to council.
From
Council's
council.
letter was very clear. Council said, within the four corners of the bylaw, he doesn't feel that you can do this. It was very clear.
That's what he said.
And to go back to council again, it seems to me just another waste
So-
of another month.
so
I
you're
want to
sug-
get somewhere with
are
this.
you suggesting then,
So,
Jerry, that
the
we-
applicant, pardon me,
Yeah, go ahead,
I'm sorry.
that we go to council? Are you suggesting that we go to council to see if we grant a waiver, it is an issue, it becomes a
What's the
future issue?
potential impact to us?
Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm suggesting that you think about protecting the integrity of board decisions as opposed to worrying about one application.
I would like to bring
I
it
don't
back
know
to
that-
town council for the simple reason, if town
What did town
council,
council, I'm sorry, what was his final statement on this?
that you can't
She's
do.
saying one thing,
Right.
he's saying something different.
That's what I just gave you.
Well, did I hand that down? What the hell did I do with that?
Did you hand Peter something?
This one?
I'd still rather have them weigh in that if we do a variance to it,
When did this come in? This came in earlier?
I don't want the
What?
applicant to have to continue again. We've been back here about 6 months in a row. The applicant is prepared either to offer a single commercial unit within the project, and there's, town council's letter did not say that it had to be any specific size.
I'm willing to make a motion that we approve what's been proposed to be all residential, putting back into play the one affordable unit for the town, which was gonna be commercial. Therefore, we get something back per approval of town council.
No, I say this is my proposal, is that they have, and because this is what I think is wrong with this, and what you designed or what you thought originally is what always pisses me off, is that later somebody else interprets it different. It's whoever's on the board that interprets it. I think it should have had in it that 10%, 20%, 30% will be residential or commercial. Apparently, if they put one piece of commercial property on it facing the street, it satisfies our bylaw, correct?
That's what these
It's
guys are
mixed
saying.
use,
That's-
correct?
That's what these
I'm
guys are
looking at you,
saying,
is
but I
that-
disagree with that.
It does, our bylaw doesn't say 10, 20, 30, 40%. It does not. And my issue is if we grant them all residential, then the next guy is the same thing. He's going to say, well, they got it, I want it.
But it gives
But,
us, it's not
I
a
want to
direct-
take it out of,
It's not a direct
I
route.
want to take it out of subjectives, our subjective minds. I want it to be the paperized. I believe what they sent last was one commercial unit, is that what it is?
Commercial unit.
I go for that because they have satisfied the bylaw.
We'll give-
One
we'll give
commercial?
Commercial ground floor unit.
Or affordable. No, I don't want something to do with affordable, I want it to do what it says, commercial.
It's going to be facing the
That's
street.
my
It will be facing the
take.
street.
Color it out right there and ask for a vote. One commercial unit facing the street.
Jonathan,
First
on the
floor.
Lung Building.
right-hand side of the Lung Building. We're having a circular conversation. We already talked about that.
Can I ask you a question?
No, you talked about that when it was going to be wholly servicing the apartments as a laundry, and it was on a bigger project. That's what you talked about, the last presentation.
I'll be honest with you, I don't, to me, there's no differentiation there. You're putting up a straw man just to satisfy commercial.
That's what your bylaw requires. He's right, there's absolutely
And
no,
there's still no,
there's no percentages or anything. It says a commercial unit.
Vertical and
on the
horizontal, it's a
street.
whole
It's
first
uses-
floor supposed to be commercial.
Doesn't say
It doesn't say that.
Where's his
I like
decision?
it.
Do we have his decision? The town council's letter?
It's somewhere in there. There's multiple things in it.
Yeah, his answers to the questions are on the first page.
Chris Heap,
Was that in our,
the very first statement,
Did
when a
that get it?
project proposes a 4 to 5 foot high retaining wall, that's not
Come on,
it.
okay.
Yeah, the last one.
Mixed use, under Article
Give him a copy of
24,
that.
Sections 173, 165, and 166. The applicant has asked the planning board to waive the requirement for a commercial component. An alternative plan would be to provide a private laundry area and/or leasing office solely for the use of the project. Looking at the definition of mixed use and the requirements in Section 173, 165, and 166, does the planning board have the authority to waive the requirement component? If the answer is no, would a private laundry area or leasing office meet that requirement for a commercial component? If again no, would the zoning relief be to the appeals board for a variance? And I believe this is Chris's answer. Mixed use is defined a combination of residential and commercial use arranged vertically in multiple-story buildings or horizontally adjacent to one another in one or more buildings within a lot. This use is allowed by special permit in the Village Common District only, subject to general special permit provisions in 173-7 and more specific special permit requirements in Article 24. I can't find anything in the zoning bylaw that allows the planning board to partially waive or amend the definition of mixed use, absent of any special provision by the bylaw that grants the board this power. They need to apply the existing definition when reviewing an application on Article 24. I believe that a private laundry area and a site-specific leasing office should be considered accessory uses related to the principal use of the property. Reading the zoning bylaw as a whole, I believe that it is intended to authorize mixed-use developments that contain both residential and at least one separate principal commercial use. A use that's accessory to the residential but has some commercial element, like a laundry or leasing, would not fit that bill. In addition, the applicant needs to dedicate some portion of the project to commercial use for the entire life of the permit, even if we assume, for the sake of argument, that a leasing office could satisfy the commercial element of mixed use. It seems insufficiently permanent to support issuance of a special permit. It is not clear that a development of this size will need a dedicated permanent leasing office for more than a few weeks or months. If this is accurate, this commercial use would disappear very early in the life of the project, in the life of the permit, leaving nothing to support the residential component of the project. Finally, for both of these proposals, private laundry, site-specific leasing office, it's not clear that the planning board could reasonably make the necessary special permit finding of mixed use, shall be balanced and compatible, and shall contribute to a vibrant village atmosphere, including a combination of ground floor street uses such as retails and office. Based on the foregoing, a variance from the Board of Appeals would be appropriate, etc. Multifamily residential development in the Village Common District does not fall within the definition. So it's talking about one element of mixed use, not a whole floor.
I got a question, and just to one last thing, is all, as far as, your statements that, all right, I suggest that the commercial portion of it is at least the size of one of the other units. You say, all right, I'll 200 square feet.
It doesn't
I know it
say
doesn't say that, that's what I'm just asking.
It's-
I mean, 400 square feet is
My
not a big,
My proposal is this. His letter says it requires one separate dedicated commercial use, dedicated commercial for the life of the project. It does not say size. I'm proposing to this board that you permit us to consider that one commercial use as proportionate to the immediately surrounding and abutting properties, which is little to none. If you took the entire street area on Goldsmith Street, most of the abutting properties are all residential. And if you proportion how much commercial versus how much residential in that vibrant mixed-use neighborhood, it would be similar to having one ground floor office space in this size.
Can I ask a question, please? Are you gonna renovate the small building which we're talking about, the commercial on the bottom and the residential on the top? Are you gonna do anything to it? You're gonna dress up the facade?
Oh, yeah, we're stripping all the siding, windows, we're redoing both buildings completely.
If we built the downstairs to look like commercial space, we put regular windows in like you would see in a storefront or something like that, and gave you the ability to rent it as residential if you couldn't rent it as commercial, would that be more palatable? Those two spaces, make the two of them downstairs commercial. And then offer it as commercial, and we understand the economics of it, but every time that it comes up,
They're up and down, Mark.
but don't you have two on the bottom?
No, they're up and down. Phyllis has lived in the left-hand one against the church for
So they're not
30
side by
years.
side down
They're
below?
up and
So
down.
how big is the downstairs one? Just 400 square feet?
What
no,
the-
it's way bigger than that.
No.
How big is the downstairs of the
This,
house? That's
this
my point.
building right here is the one you're talking about.
Correct, that's the house
All right,
now.
this is split right in the middle with two doors on each side. There's a room in the front that's probably 14 by 16?
Yeah.
And then a kitchen behind it.
Okay.
And then there's 3 bedrooms up and a bath.
So there's only, is that one unit now?
One unit now that's rented to an IBM person. Phyllis is in the other unit with the living room in the front, the kitchen in the middle, and their bedroom type on the first floor, and then they have 3 up, 2 up, 3 up, 4 up.
Why don't we rent it to IBM for commercial use, and what they do with it is up to them?
I still want it to appear to be, I still want you to.
We'll make them look commercial if you'd like.
The
if you'll give us
commercial
a waiver
aspect
for
of
the-
it.
If you'll give
No,
us a
I'm not gonna
waiver.
give you a waiver, I'm gonna say that it's a commercial component, and that you have to lease it and try to rent it as commercial. And if after a time you can't rent it, and you wanna.
What's the time?
Every
It
time.
says permanent.
No, it will be permanent in commercial if.
There's no
if-
time. I'm proposing to put my construction office right here in the front. That's not an on-site leasing.
That's right,
That's not a laundry.
that's right.
That's a commercial component. It doesn't say how many square feet I have to be.
Office is office forever.
I'll make the front look like commercial for you if you want, but, I mean, we're redoing the whole thing. All the siding, windows, sprinklers.
I'd like
This
to.
is gonna be something nice downtown,
I
and you're
get-
making it hard.
Well, we're not making it hard, we're making it so that you can put 8 units where you normally can't put 8 units. I mean, let's not miss sight of that fact. It's 8 units of
now.
of office space. You're gonna put 8 units of rental space. It's a little different than 8 offices.
Residential.
I meant residential. It's different. If that was to return back to a house, you put 1 unit in there. So my point is, if you give us a commercial component and you try to rent it as a commercial component, and it's always listed as commercial, you pay commercial taxes on it, it's commercial. If after a number of years, after some time, maybe it doesn't go rental for commercial, then maybe you have the option of renting it as residential. But every time it becomes vacant, it has to be advertised as commercial.
Well, at this point in time, you're offering the commercial construction office in the bigger building, just because he doesn't want to displace the two tenants that are there, and because it's up and down and the sprinklers and everything. So they're offering the commercial component that you need in the larger building facing the street on the ground floor.
That sounds like a very reasonable alternative, Mark.
I can live with that. I thought you didn't want to do that. I can,
That's what they want to do.
Sounds like a very reasonable
It sounds like an awfully
solution.
good way out.
All right. Any more questions from the board? Any questions from the audience?
I'm doing it that way?
Yeah.
No, as long as it's commercial. I don't-
Any,
And I
any,
think we need to do
But I
some,
do think that bylaw doesn't
junk.
work with that area.
We're-
I think we should fix that bylaw, and we need an out for when people come in here to do
We're-
this, because that's garbage.
we'll, after this meeting's over, I'll talk with town,
You think about.
All right, let's vote on this now, get it over with.
200
but
square feet of
that's,
space.
that's for
You
another
have-
day.
You have a detailed comments from Green International. I would recommend, I have to recommend that you don't close the public hearing until you have the updated plans that address those comments. It's your option, though.
Those are the ones that has to do with getting an easement for the pipe going across, originally proposed Tedeschi property.
Those were the old comments, and then there were 2 or 3 pages of new comments attached to those.
The easement for the pipe was confirmed to you in an email from the Steinberg property manager, so you know everything's coming up.
Well, I don't want to approve something on something that's coming, you know?
The Steinberg sent it to the planning board already, confirming that it was happening, and we just have to locate it and
I want to see it.
Yeah.
You have an easement registered in the registry of deeds over that
Until we have
property?
this approval.
We can add that as a
Subject it to it?
condition.
Fine.
Yeah, we can make that a condition.
Okay, you're going to condition all of the items in Green's letter?
I don't have a copy of Green's letter here in my packet.
What is this one?
We have Chris Heath's letter.
Do you have a copy of Green's letter, Mark?
Oh, nothing.
Yeah.
There it is.
Good dreams.
There.
Yeah, I wonder why I didn't have it.
It's in the pink package.
There's 2 copies there.
Okay,
There's 2 copies if you want to read one.
I got one.
This is the April 3rd,
No, this is June 5th.
June 5th.
June 5th, did that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
God bless you.
He's got six pages of comments. Terry, have you guys seen these 6 pages of comments?
John,
Yes,
you want to address it?
yes. So we'll start with the first one, they'll go quick.
Okay.
The first one relates to the existing drainage with the easement and how we're gonna get an easement in this location. All that you need to do is say that, upon recording of the easement, you'll have your permit. The next one has to do with the proposed wall around the septic system. That's something we have to go to ZBA for, it has nothing to do with this board.
Okay.
The next comment, number 14, has to do with the waiver that I asked for the drainage, for the type of pipe. His last comment is the town of Littleton Highway Department said he doesn't have an issue with this waiver request, so.
Okay.
Number 15 has to do with the type of pipe inside the site. We don't want to use RCP for every single pipe. It's not needed. And his last comment is the town of Littleton Highway Department doesn't have a problem with it.
Okay.
Number 16 has to do with the septic system, the proposed septic system, and how it's going to meet both Title V and the groundwater protection standards set by Littleton, and it will, so that doesn't have anything to do with this board. What it does have to do with this board is, you can say that as long as the septic system has been issued a permit from the Board of Health and that it meets the Town of Littleton's groundwater protection district, then the groundwater permit will be issued.
We can condition that on the Board of
Yes.
Health.
Number 17, Aquifer and Water Resource District, same exact comment as number 16. It has to do with the septic system. The new comments are really, I have to just move a couple of the parking spots, the handicap parking spots, because they don't meet ADA right now. So I just have to, it's a quick fix, it's not a big deal.
So, on that one,
So these comments are gonna require a minor plan revision.
we can condition that on the handicap.
The fire department has already commented on the parking lot. Okay, so,
Excuse me, we really can't condition 8 pages of notes from Green that we just saw 2 days ago. We really need to,
So, but
right, but I do want the board to comment on some of these things, because I don't want to come back with 8 pages of his same comments every time that I've had since January. These comments go back to his first review in May.
right, so good.
So I'd like these addressed so that I can have
Have you
a
addressed
cleaner
them?
letter.
Have you
I
addressed
have, they're all, but he keeps coming back and saying we should defer to the board for this.
See,
And
this is a circle again.
So for example, look at number 37. It says per section 17320 of the zoning bylaw, and you can read the whole thing about design goals, building scale, roof form, entrances, external materials. And he says we respectfully defer to the Board of Health, to the Littleton Planning Board for a determination on these items. I can't answer that.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
applicant has stated that they will have no problem with continuing one more hearing for closing and finalizing the decision, but might I ask the board for a vote tonight about the commercial component so that that issue is put to bed?
Oh, I think, are you ready for that? Good.
yeah, let's just,
You're going
All
to take a
right.
vote inside of a public hearing.
we're not gonna take a vote, we're gonna give them an idea of where we're coming from. If we
So, I
do the
can-
one, oh, excuse me, Richard.
We can poll the members.
Sorry, I lost my head, it's been.
If you close the
Actually,
public hearing, you
go-
can't take
But what are
the
you
new
polling
plans.
us about, Richard?
If does any member have an issue with the commercial component that they have presented as a proposed solution? Any member have any issue with it?
I like it.
I think it's fine. Jerry doesn't like it. How about you, Mark?
No, he said he didn't have
I
a
said, I
problem.
don't know.
Oh, you don't have a problem with it?
I don't
Okay.
know.
Move on.
This is a unique situation. I think they've done the best they can to try to satisfy the bylaw in this situation, so I'll go along with it.
All right, so I think you have your answer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And,
Providing all the other
8 pages.
8 pages.
yeah,
Richard, I'm surprised you haven't jumped all over the design criteria. You know, what are they gonna put there?
Move on.
No, wait, no.
Move on.
that will come.
No, but he wants an answer to it. He wants an answer. Have we seen a rendering of what the exterior, what it's gonna look like, what it's gonna be made out of?
Vinyl siding.
Vinyl siding?
Yep.
Okay.
New windows.
New windows, vinyl siding.
Vinyl.
All right.
Vinyl's final. What about paths for animals to go through and stuff? We're gonna
Oh,
have,
come on.
Look,
We're way behind. Let's move.
all right, so
I digress.
So we're now at a second grade, move on.
Continue to the next
we'll
meeting.
continue to the next meeting. How are we gonna address these? We could knock a lot of these right off the list right now by just saying
Let's-
yes and no to these
You
things.
gotta move on, though.
No.
Let them address it.
All right, we'll deal with these at the next meeting. And then what's left as conditions, we'll just add them when we vote.
And your office will get a draft decision.
In your first submission, we answered a lot of those questions, so let's just say that everything that was proposed in the first that we answered, like the pipe, as long as Jimmy didn't have a problem with it, we'll approve it, and we'll take those off. If there's anything new in here that we didn't see, maybe we'll address that at the next one.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll need to continue this hearing.
Thank you for your time and
The
deliberation.
proponents are all set? Do
Do
we?
you want to set a time now in case there's anybody in the audience that, so we know?
So 7:45 on Thursday, July 9th?
On what day?
Thursday, July 9th.
Everyone's going to be here for July?
Probably not.
I'll be here for the July 9th, Peter?
Be here.
I don't know where I'm going tomorrow.
Okay, so Peter will be here for July 9th.
I will be here.
Yeah.
Oh, if Peter's going to be here, I'll be here.
Okay.
That's fine.
So we'll at least have 4.
You know who it is?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know what my schedule looks like.
All right.
All right.
So I'll entertain a motion to postpone the meeting. till-
Continue.
Continue the meeting till July 9th. Let's get-
So
You don't need to
moved.
vote it, you just have
All
to
right.
say it.
We have a,
Thank you.
all in favor? Aye. The ayes have it.
Okay, if I could get the town council letter
Letter
back.
back, yeah.
Did you have you had a copy
Do
of
you have the
that
town
green
council
letter?
letter?
Copy of what agreement?
Green letter.
Yeah, it's in the pink one. Did you take the pink apart? Should have been in there.
Nothing was stapled.
council?
It's a pink. No
Everybody
staple.
had it.
We all have it.
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah,
giving
well, I
you
didn't
that
have
back
it.
anyway.
Let's take it, it's all stapled together.
Not in this packet and nothing here.
It's 9 o'clock. Let's move.
Let's go.
That's just the same one.
Soaring Hawk Meadow Mediation School.
Soaring Hawk.
This is,
Where's that?
All right, Soaring Hawk, public hearing. 547 Great Road. We're a little late. Is the applicant here?
I am.
Oh, good. Oh, sorry.
Things now.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah.
So I get to read again?
It's in the public.
I'm gonna resign from Nobody told me that, just like they didn't tell me I was gonna be
Mark, your comments are
CPC
great.
either.
what comments? Your comment. What comment did I make?
Multiple.
Cracker.
Oh, thank you.
You're good? I just bought them tonight. Help yourself. Yeah, help yourself. Take them all. I gotta read, I can't eat it.
It's unfortunate about that.
That really works,
It did?
I think. All right, we're here for a Soaring Hawk public hearing. For some changes, some additional changes. We recently approved their application. Plans, and Bruce Ringwald is here to explain what the changes are, what those changes are.
I'm gonna read first. Public hearing setback and water resource district special permit, 547 Gray Road. The Town of Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, June 11th, 2015, at 8:30 PM in room 103 at Town Hall, 37 Shattuck Street. Consider the application for special permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 48, and the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning. The application is for an intensity of use schedule special permit to allow a reduced building setback in an aquifer district special permit under sections 173-31 and 173-61 through 173-64 of the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning. Property location, 547 Great Road. Assessors map R-18, parcel 14. Owner and applicant and I'm going to say it, Georgina Gagnon. The applicant is seeking approvals for additional improvement to 547 Great Road within the 150-foot setback from Great Road and Beaver Brook Road, and the Aquifer District special permit for increasing the parking and overall percent impervious and increased septic flow. Application and plans can be reviewed at the planning board in the town clerk's office during their business hours. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated.
Thank you. Let the applicant begin.
Good evening, Bruce Ringwald from GPR, representing Jade Gagnon and Soaring Hawk Meditation Center. As Chair pointed out previously, we've been before this board 2 previous times for various modifications, and we're here for a 3rd modification. The property is located at 547 Great Road. It accesses off of Beaver Brook to Old Great Road, and also it has an access off of Beaver Brook Road, which was previously approved for coming in with 7 parking spaces off of that site. The site as it exists today, you're all well aware of, it's an existing white farmhouse with an addition barn shed off the back side of the house. Much of the house, much of the building is within the 150-foot setback to Great Road, or actually to Old Great Road, to the property line there. This was all right as a residence. With the prior applications that have been before you, we were here, part of the application was the wellness component and the office use associated with that, and part was to maintain a residential unit within the structure. The residential unit within the structure, we're now removing that component. We want the component to be a wellness facility, a meditation facility, as has been previously permitted and approved. The applicant has plans, architectural, which we'll go through momentarily, to allow for those uses to occur within the site, within the building, but also has the request in here for some alternative uses to the property. Relative to the meditation portion of it, she wants to have these meditation gatherings within the building that will need and require more parking than we initially had. We initially had 7 spaces in the back and a couple for herself and others in the front side on the existing pavement out front of the building. She hopes to have at some points at these meditations as much as 40 to 60 people, and they would be using the space inside, and that would allow for and require for the additional parking on the site. So what we have previously had approved in the back was a drive that came in at 16 feet wide, narrowed to 12, back to 16, with 2-foot shoulders, and came around to 7 parking spaces here. What we're proposing to do is add 6 parking places here, take the emergency turnaround that was there and turn it 90 degrees off the end. This emergency turnaround would be done with paving blocks with crushed stone in between it. Don't want that to look immediately like paving right outside of the building space. This area that's hatched in here and all the hatch in here would be walkways that would be done with paving stone. The paving stone would be done to designate the handicap parking spaces. We had 1 before, now we have 2, because we've gone from 7 or 8 parking spaces total on the site to 30 parking spaces, and once you reach 24, I think it is, you need 2 parking spaces in the handicap nature. The handicap access, accessible access to the building, as in the last proposal and is still now, will be via the pavers up to the back and then straight on to, at grade, to a deck and into the main entrance off the back of the building within the current alcove now, which is looked to be reconfigured slightly from our last presentation, and I'll get into that when we get into the architecture portion in just a moment. The access off of Old Great Road in our very first application, we had 4 parking spaces down here, 4 parking spaces in front of the building, and 3 parking spaces up above. Now what we'd like to do is expand that slightly to 5 parking spaces down here, 5 in front of the building where it's currently crushed stone, and then expand the 3 in front of the existing garage to be 4 in front of the existing garage. So a little bit of extra pavement up on the top side here, widening that, and then 3 more across from that portion. So that will allow for 17 parking spaces off the existing drive and widening the existing drive to accommodate those turning movements and those spaces in that location. They will access up through the walkway and then out to the front door or via the back. From a standpoint of drainage, initial application, we dealt with a stone filter strip on the down gradient side of the parking and then a vegetative buffer strip, both things that are within the Littleton's LID, low impact development, BMP's, best management practices, as well as in DEP's guidelines for the same. That would be an overland flow to a very shallow berm at the edge of the, near the edge of the property, which would allow for an infiltration basin down at that location. That drainage we have continued to use through the last presentation as well, although back then we had this property in the back coming across and going through the filter strip and then into that area. What we're doing now is we're picking up all of the drainage in the back area with a stone filter strip and a 5-foot sod strip, then into a grass swale, into a rain garden, a bioretention area that's located just to the east of the building. And then once that water is treated, it has an outflow down across the site, and then it does a discharge across the lawn and into that same infiltration basin. The roof, half of the roof of the new addition here goes into a drip edge infiltration trench. The back of the roof, which would fall onto the deck area in the back, will all be guttered. And that'll be picked up and brought in and put into a series of Cultec drainage infiltration trenches down in the front corner of the property and then buried under the lawn. And then the front drainage here does its piece across and goes in through that. The drainage, as proposed, meets all of the Littleton low-impact BMPs, low-impact development BMPs. It meets the state guidelines. Even though we have no wetlands or anything there, we're reducing our pre-development, our post-development runoff rates and our post-development discharge rates, volume and rate of runoff. Both are reduced. That's shown in the drainage calculations that we submitted. I believe Corey has reviewed that from the Littleton Light and Water Department. There's a comment that we'll get to on that later on when we get through department comments. But we are recharging more on here than there's currently, which is what we like to do in the groundwater and aquifer protection districts. As we know, we're up gradient of well number 2. So that covers that. That also is addressed and needs to be addressed from the standpoint of the special permit that we're here for because of in the aquifer protection district, whereby the current impervious area on the site right now is, I believe, 11.9, and we're going to 16.9. So basically we're 2% over the 15% threshold, whereby a special permit is necessary if we are over that threshold relative to that. While we're talking about the site as a whole, and I should back up, and I should have stated this right at the very beginning, the application and what it says on the plan here is that they're looking at a max capacity for a seated function of 180 people in the application. That has changed, and I wish to amend the application. The applicant wants to limit it to 120, does not want to be at 180, wants a smaller facility, 120 seated facility event, which would be a very rare occasion, which I'll get into when I get into her pro forma for the property in just a moment. But from that standpoint, we have an existing septic system on the property that's rated for about 740 gallons a day, plus or minus a couple. We are proposing that all of the bathroom facilities on the property will be composting toilets. Based upon, and we've put in toilets based upon a higher occupancy than we have proposed. Based upon the architectural code, we'll have 3 women's toilets and 2 men's toilets and a urinal. Those will all be located right in this general area. I'll show you when we get to the architectural plans. And they are going to be composting toilets of a foam nature that will go down to 2 composters in the basement. In the upstairs area, there's another meditation room and an art and craft room, which doubles also on the function basis, would double as a bridal changing area, and there'll be 2 small bathrooms up there. Those also will be composting toilets. So all the toilet facilities on the property will be composting toilets. These are Clivis New England composting toilets. They're approved by DEP. That will drop down into the basement into composters. They'll have a maintenance contract with them. They do their thing. You know, basically, you won't have to do anything with them other than raking them out and changing them through. What that does, from the standpoint of what you care about this evening, is that it takes the bulk of all the nitrogen loading and removes it from the site, because it's there, it's now removed from the property and from the site. Under your bylaw, under the Aquifer Protection District, we have a limitation of 6 gallons per 1,000 square feet of land area. Anything over that requires a special permit from this board, and we're here asking for that this evening. The only water that will be discharged into this 750 gallon a day leaching facility will be hand washing water. And we will have the timers on the sinks, so that you push the thing down and then the sink runs for a little while and you wash your hands and dry yourself and leave. There will not be washing machines, there will not be dishwashers. For any events that are catered, the caterer will be responsible for removing all of their facilities and cleaning off-site. We will have a small sink in the kitchen. There won't be a big slop sink or something that they can clean things through. So there will be very limited ability of very limited nitrogen adding to the septic system, which is one of the big concerns relative to that. The following page is on this front. Before we get into the architectural piece, we have the detail for the cross-section of the driveway. It currently says varies. One of the comments that came in was a comment from Keith Dunn, Littleton's fire safety engineer. There's been a recent change to NFPA 1, Chapter 18, which now requires an accessible way for commercial sites of 20 feet wide for fire equipment. Keith and I talked about the fact that we have a 2-foot shoulder on either side, a gravel shoulder, and 16 feet, although it did narrow to 12 feet. And we both agreed that by making it a 16-foot wide the entire way with 2-foot shoulders gives 16, 2 and 2 is 20, provides with the 20-foot wide access, and he's good with that. If everything moves forward on that standpoint, we recommend either a condition or I can modify the plan and get the plan back to you, but we'll address what we had done previously was we had narrowed it back down to the existing 12 feet that the existing gravel drive is in places. Now we'll just take, and if I find a red pen here, we'll just make this piece go right straight across, straighter than I drew, so that it stays at 16 with 2-foot shoulders on either side. For the access into the site. I also have paving detail, the details for the infiltration, a stone trench and a little berm out at the end, and then a detail for the bioretention basin. You folks are very familiar with them. We've brought them before you numerous times, and I know others have as well, and the stone diaphragm. Oops, lost the page there. The architecture changes that are on the site today and being proposed. I'm going to turn forward a page here so I can get into the existing conditions here first. Okay, the existing first floor, there's 2 rooms in the front, a small kitchen area, then a couple big open rooms. I'm not sure what this is, kind of a shed type addition that's on here, and then the big garage space. The existing second floor is a series of several bedrooms that were up there, and 2 bathrooms, and a couple more bedroom areas. The proposal, maintain these rooms that are in the front and here, turn this into the butler's pantry for the use of the caterer, for an area to stage the warming boxes to hold the warm food, an oven for heating, and then, as I said, a small sink area. This area will be for, it's called out as the Renaissance Hall for meditation, piano. The existing alcove in the back, she wishes to push out a little bit and then take a notch out of this other shed. So we had already pushed out and gotten approval to here. I think now it comes to something like this and then over. So it's asking for a little bit more area in here, but taking away this section, and we'll look at that in the elevations in just a moment. That'll allow for this entry area. Sounds like my ring, but it's not. Mine's in my car. So a series of bathrooms, the women's bathroom on one side, handicap stalls for both men and women, and a urinal, and then another stairway that goes up, and then the larger area in the back, whereby the existing garage shed area would be removed and turned, and this addition back here is within the property setbacks, the 150 from all the adjacent roads. This is that line right here. And this would be an area that would allow for music, dances, and ceremonies, and I'll get into the various different uses in just a moment that she would like to be able to do here. This is a 32 by 42 addition with a 10 by 20 box area off the end of it. And then the deck on this configuration versus the last one is a larger deck. We had a smaller deck. Now it's been enlarged to allow for planters in it. Again, this is the accessible access from the handicap parking on through to the site is the accessible access. As you recall from the front side, we had looked into putting a scissor lift in the front before initial proposal, and there was issues with the scissor lift and issues with them in weather conditions and such. So this was chosen to be the better approach for that. The second floor area, rooms for a quilting room, craft and linen storage, an area for storing tables and chairs, and then bridal party areas for changing rooms in those 2 bathrooms that I spoke of upstairs. These are the elevations as you see the building from the road. This piece in the back would come out a little bit further than it does currently. This is looking at it from the back of the property, which you'd have a hard time seeing it through, but that's what it looked like from the back. This is the look from Beaverbrook Road side, looking down, again, much lower down than Beaverbrook Road, and a lot of vegetation in between the two. And then this is the side that you'll see the most of as you drive west on 119 Great Road. You can see this front corner. This is the existing farmer's porch and the existing piece. This piece would be different. It's a kind of a shed roof that comes over the garage that's there currently. And then I want to come back to the front here. I want to pull that plan out of the way because it's a condition. Go to this plan. Talk about what she has here for uses on the site. He has put together a series of house guidelines and outline of what she foresees to be the use of the property. So, Peter? And here I have only so many, and I gotta keep with one, so you guys can all figure out who gets what, but, there you go. So, her uses on the property, she's looking at tours of the property. She's very in tune to this property and excited about the property from the standpoint of its history, and its history as a poorhouse in town, the fact that it's on the cover of the Book of Massachusetts Poorhouses. She really is looking forward to having that be something and wants to maintain that in this. Her mindfulness workshops are something that she hopes to have on during Sundays. She looks to have up to 65 people for those, looking at somewhere hopefully between 24 and 48 of those a year. Drop-in meditations are on a Tuesday evening thing. She's thinking maybe 50 of those a year. Holidays and things get in the way. Dance classes on Wednesday evenings. Looking between 6 and 24 of those, depending upon how those work. She'd like to have this open space here, this space for dance inside. She's looking to have contra dance and open mic within that. That would be a Friday evening thing. She's thinking that that would be probably 12 to 24 of those a year, less than 75 people. Function rentals, Fridays from like May to October. She would like to be able to have functions in here, and I'll get to that piece in a moment. She's thinking that might be as many as 120, but at a limit to that number. And then weddings on Saturdays is her hope, and that would be, again, limited to 120 people, and on Saturdays between May and October. And then function rentals, again, would be during the winter months, if possible, on Saturdays, and again, limited to 75 people. And she has her house guidelines that she's put forward for the property. Again, all in line with the meditation and the mindfulness, and to have this place as a peaceful area. She has a lot of plans for the landscape, bringing back the natural landscaped areas on the property, establishing some of the gardens that were here years ago, getting rid of the invasives on the property, and putting in a lot of more of native plants. Guidelines: no parking on Beaverbrook Road for any reason. Any tenant events will be accommodated tenant events may be accommodated in the house and barn if weather dictates. No amplified music outside. Outdoor music must cease properly at 10, 8 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday. Police detail required where alcohol is served, and she obviously realizes if this goes forward and she's able to have alcohol, she has to go through that whole permitting process as well. Precautions must be taken to avoid fire hazards such as fireproofing decorations. Only battery-operated candles allowed inside or on the grounds. Max number of people to accommodate 120. No smoking on the house or in the house or on the grounds. Saturday rentals allow for exclusive use of the property for the day for the wedding party. Access to the cutting garden and craft room may be scheduled Thursday or Friday prior to a wedding. An event supervisor will be available at all times during the event. Beaverbrook parking lot is the most accessible for anyone with mobility issues. Vendors may unload at the front entrance, but should park in the south driveway, which is this lower drive. Caterer is responsible for the time flow of the event. Caterer is responsible for procuring all alcohol. Cash bars are not permitted. Functions will allow for additional setup and breakdown time. No drumming circles allowed in the house or on the grounds, and all shamanic work must be pre-approved. And I'm not sure what shamanic is. I meant to look it up, but I didn't get that far. Okay. That pretty much covers what I have for presentation. I know there's some comments, and I can address those as you bring those up from the other boards.
Okay, now you're here for a special permit? You're here for an aquifer?
I'm here for the special permit for the excess of 6 gallons per thousand square feet of land. We're addressing that, and by all the nitrogen from all the black water will be removed from site, both by compost and then that product being removed. And any liquid that comes out of the process goes into a storage tank, 500-gallon storage tank. The Clavis New England says that that'll probably have to be emptied probably once every 2 years.
Special permit and aquifer?
And the other one was the over 15% of impervious area, which I'm at 6, we'll call it 16.9.
Does that impervious include the riprap and the,
It includes everything.
even though it's pavers and stuff, you've
Yes,
included
sir.
as impervious?
Any pavers, the deck, which allows water to flow through and to be absorbed into the ground, the pavers up in here and the turnaround, the wrap that we have proposed on that, the pavement that we have proposed here, little chunks of stone wall that are around it, it's all calculated in there, Mark.
How about the tent?
Tent is not. Tent is a temporary thing. Tent would be set up for a day before an event and taken down a day after an event. And it falls onto grass. This is all a grassed area. This is a landscape garden to be enhanced on the outside of that.
So even though it's a tent, it doesn't leave the site, goes in.
Does not.
So this tent is going to be erected and dismantled,
On a,
possibly
on
once a
an
week.
as-needed basis.
Huh? Well, I just don't see the, if this is a viable business and they do this on a regular basis, I don't see why they wouldn't buy a tent and leave it up the whole time. So you're telling me it's up and down every week?
I had made suggestion of that. I've had conversations with Roland Bernier, the building inspector, about that, and he said that if it was a tent that they wanted to keep up on a regular basis, then he might want to have it permitted for that standpoint if it was up for more than, I think it's 30 or 60 days, whatever the case is. That's not the case here. It's going to be an up and down thing. If for any reason that ever changes, I or my successor will be back before you. But right now, that's not the proposal.
So we're here for site setback, water resource, and site plan.
And the site setback, we talked about briefly, we had approved an addition within this, the alcove. We want to bring it out just a little bit, but we want to notch this part of it out here, and that's just so that the roof lines work better on the space up above, and the flow pattern works within that. The deck is larger, you can see underneath here, the deck that we had permitted previously. The deck is much bigger, but it fills that whole space so that it's kind of a gathering space. It has benches with planters on it so that it can be an outdoor meditation space as well.
So the setback is for? The setback.
The setback would be for
request just
this
the
deck
deck
and for this little piece bumped out in here.
and the addition, yeah.
Does that protrude further past the already, it says proposed building addition to the right above where you were just pointing? Is that already from our approval earlier?
I think so.
Right.
Let's show me where you're.
This is where you're
so I make
speaking.
sure that I don't say the wrong-
This is where you're talking here, right?
This was the deck under here that was approved before that's crosshatched.
Right.
This is the new deck.
Okay.
Before you'd approved this, now we're asking that this little piece be cut out so that that comes across. I think that this is at the same location there, I'm not positive.
Is this one over here, this right here,
That there, this is the 150-foot setback, that meets all the setbacks.
inside of that? This is from
Can
Old
we,
Great,
From,
can we have
Old
one
Great Road,
conversation?
not from Beaver Brook?
that's correct, it meets the 150 from Beaver Brook.
Do any of the board members have any questions or comments? Now, Peter, you've just had a comment.
Huh?
You just had a comment. Was your comment answered, your question?
Oh, I was satisfied with that answer, yes.
Any other board members have questions?
Does Ed have a question?
Well, not at the moment, but I'm sure I will.
I have a couple of questions.
Fire away.
Well, you haven't asked for a waiver for the tent area because you're within the 150 feet of the buffer zone from residential to the industrial. Are you going to ask for that?
No, I've spoken with Roland, and Roland said that as a tent, the tent does not need to meet the setbacks, and that it does not need to have it would be a setup and take down.
But it's, according to this, you're going to have Every week, it's not really a temporary structure. It's
According
20,
to that, it has the option of being there every week, yes.
52 weeks a year. It's not a temporary structure.
24 weeks. They're in
And
the
then there's
summer.
another 24 after that, so it's 48. out of
No,
52
those are
weeks.
be inside. You're not gonna set up a tent in the winter.
I think it's the board's determination whether that's a commercial use within the 150-foot buffer. So I'd like to see how the board feels about that for starters. The other issue I have is your composting. You're right next to the wells here. This is the most sensitive area in the town of Littleton. I don't think we're gonna wanna trust composting toilets and all that other stuff when nitrogen loading at the property line is what we've always based this on. And unless you're planning on putting all your gray water, black water into a tight tank and dealing with it that way,
All of it goes into totally sealed containers, sir.
So it's like a tight
This
tank.
is, DEP has
Yeah.
approved these composts.
Yeah.
They're used on islands, they're used on very small spaces, they're used on places that are right on top of wells. We are well outside, we're probably 400 to 500 feet outside of the 400-foot zone. The Zone 2 line is outside of our property. This property has ledge up here, has gravel down here. It is on the fringes, and there's been discussion in the past that I've had with the Light and Water Department about that. Those are approved by DEP. Mr. Griffey is Littleton Board of Health agent, is aware of what I have proposed here. I has no problem with him. He's very happy that we're doing that and taking all of the nitrogen off-site. You have nothing to worry about from those composting toilets.
Mark, we just approved, I'm on the appeals board, state appeals board, we just approved a brand-new, ground-up harbor master building for Nantucket Harbor, using this exact same thing for 16 toilets right on the harbor.
Sitting right on the harbor.
so it goes
right
into,
over the
it goes right into a tight tank.
Yeah,
Right into.
special concrete even, yeah.
Tight conforming vessels
Yeah.
that take care of the
I do.
compost.
What about your parking?
I do
You're
have a
proposing
question.
30 spaces, you're gonna have
Proposing
100.
30 spaces, the Littleton bylaw for assembly says 1 space per 4 seats, and that's what we have.
You have 30, so that you have 120 people, you need 30 spaces for that.
Correct.
You need 16 spaces for all the help and everything else that's gonna be involved with this, and you have no spaces for that. You have no spaces for the staff or the parking for the vehicles that are gonna support this. All you have is 30 spaces.
That's
So you
correct.
don't have enough spaces for any kind of assembly that you do over there.
By your zoning, the assembly, it says the assembly is 1 space for 4 seats.
You need employees, where are they gonna park? And that's assuming everybody's, 4 people are gonna be in every car.
That does
You don't have any kind of overflow, you have the bare minimum you can fit on that site.
We have
The-
that, and that's if they have that level. And she is talking to the abutters relative to possibly setting up spaces, but by the bylaw, we have the space that's allowed for the use on the site.
You don't have any parking spaces for staff, are there gonna be no staff, or are they gonna ride in with the?
There's gonna be the planner, and then whoever's on the catering. And
What
the
about-
catering will have to shuffle their vehicles.
What about the people that come in that wanna do something else that are not in court, you're gonna be doing stuff.
They're
other
not
than-
allowed on it. When there's a rental event, that's all that's there.
Well, what happens when you have Friday nights, when you're having Reiki and karaoke at the same time?
We don't have Reiki karaoke
Well, you
at the
have-
same time.
Yes, you do, actually. You have
No.
from 5 to 10, and then from 7:30 to 10. You have dances and functions and everything else. You have 75.
It'll be a one or the other, sir. The max capacity on the site,
You don't have
we're
enough
looking at is 120.
As far as I'm looking at, you don't have enough parking. 30 parking spaces for 120
Excuse me,
people.
when was the
coming.
last time
Wait a
you went
second.
to a wedding when people came for a car?
You never. That's what I'm saying. You don't
Yeah.
have enough parking.
We're going to keep the discussion to the board, we'll open it up to the
You
public
don't
in a
have
minute.
enough parking
Yeah.
for this, and it's also,
Come on, let's open it up to the.
it's, well, wait a second, I'm not done yet. Well, you don't, it's a use. This is not an allowed use in this area.
This use is not allowed on here from the standpoint of the way the bylaw sits. It is listed as it's an allowed use if I get a special permit for the functions from the zoning board of appeals. You're aware, I have filed for a special permit. I'm on their agenda next Thursday night for that special permit.
So you're asking for a use variance for this?
No, I'm asking for a
no.
use special permit to allow for the use of I'm gonna have to read it
The
because.
toilets, yeah.
I don't
Not
have.
for the toilets.
this in the last meeting.
Your bylaw states, and I quote from section 26A, "For other principal uses with externally observable attributes similar to those permitted above." This would be to allow for dance, music, weddings, and function rental space.
They need a use variance to do
No,
weddings.
it's a special permit. Read it. On the chart, it has an A. You go back, and that's a special permit from the Board of Appeals.
I still say you don't have enough parking. I still think you need to design it for more than 30 people, but that's my opinion. I'd like to hear from the rest of the board.
If you want my opinion on that, the parking for assembly is, what was it, 4?
One for 4 seats.
1 for 4 seats. Now that, it doesn't say, but you gotta add more for this or for that.
That's correct. That's what it says.
What it says, so.
If this was a restaurant, you'd
That's
have to
a
have.
different thing. We're not having a restaurant, we don't have kitchen staff, we don't have wait
You
staff.
serve, how are you gonna eat?
You're gonna have the caterer and the caterer. The caterers set up and they do their thing, is how they deliver people.
Why? What's the problem?
There's not enough space
That's
for it.
the owner's problem, that's not our problem.
Yeah, he's
Hold
meeting the,
on,
No,
folks.
we
Let's
haven't
go-
talked
hey,
to the neighbors yet,
we
we're
were gonna-
supposed to open up the public comment.
all right.
So celebrating
Are you
mindful,
all set,
celebrating
Mark?
mindful.
I'm not, but I'll
right.
let the neighbors
I have some.
talk.
Ed has a question.
Mr. Chairman, celebrating mindfulness, I'd like to ask you to ask the public to participate.
Thank God.
We can, if the board's all through, we'll open it up to public
Fire
discussion.
away, dude.
Yeah, I have,
Recognize your name, please.
first comment, when
Oh.
you came to the.
Your name.
Identify yourself.
Michael Torello, I live on 11 Old Gray Road, and basically I will be looking at that in full view 5 months of the year. When we came to the hearing, the previous hearing, and there was some discussion and pushback from the public, you made a point of telling us that you had considered many different uses for that property, and you had watched over very carefully and chosen one that you thought would fit the character and would be an appropriate use for that home. And that use was as defined as a holistic healing center.
We don't choose uses.
No, I understand,
These people
but
come
this is
to
what-
us.
This is
Yeah.
what you told us. You said,
Yeah.
you know, you should be, in fact, to quote somebody, you should be happy, you should have seen the things we turned down for that.
Who said
I
that?
said that.
And he was right.
Tennis courts were proposed and everything else like that, it just didn't.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that permit was granted on the basis of a specific use. This is a major change to that use. What permit needs to get issued to address that?
That's to the Board of Appeals.
Totally major.
It's not really, it's a site plan issue.
That's-
That's not what we approved 2 months, three months ago. It's not even close.
Right, and that's why
When-
we have the new public hearing for this
Right.
new application for a new aquifer special permit, new setback special permit, and new site plan.
That's right.
Correct. And these uses and this parking are things that she's asking for, regardless of whether the wedding goes forward or not, because she needs this for the meditation purposes on the site, the way it's set up. So the building changes, the parking that's laid out here, the drainage, everything that's laid out here, the landscaping she plans to do, all will be moving forward for the meditation purposes and the mindfulness uses of the building, regardless of whether the wedding and function uses are permitted through the ZBA.
Mr. Chair,
Ken, please.
1 second.
Yeah.
How many functions has she had there so far?
0.
Yeah. So how does she know she needs more when she hasn't done anything yet? What do you mean? Well, she hasn't done anything, there's nothing happened, it says. She came, she asked for a little bit more, it went pretty good. Now she's asking for a little more again, and,
It
you know,
was
and
asking
then,
for a change.
yeah, well,
From what she had initially to what we had the second time around, it was a change of the use and where the parking went. It wasn't for a more at that point, it was at the
this
same
is a
level.
more.
This is a more.
What's a more?
Yeah.
So last time, it was not more. I had 7 or 8 parking spaces
Can the
out here.
residents be
I put 7 in the
recognized
back. Excuse me,
you were
Mr. Chair, I'm answering Peter's
Please
question.
finish.
We had a series of parking spaces out here. We removed those. We added 7 out back, kept the 3 that were over here. So we had 10 parking spaces on the whole property. The more that we did was to reconfigure the building within here to build out the alcove and to make this an access ramp. That was the more. There was no change to anything else.
All right, your name?
Yeah, Steve Reedy, Beaverbrook Road, 4 Beaverbrook Road. And I would just respectfully ask that you remain silent while we give our sense of things. We didn't debate you no matter how outrageous we felt the things you said were. We remain quiet. I'd ask you to do the same thing, please.
Yeah, we'll allow one person to talk at a
Okay,
time.
so we came here, I don't know if you remember me. I came when we were doing the overlay district. And I came alone, and, but then I came with neighbors, and we made a decision to move that overlay district back.
That's correct.
And then we showed up at town meeting and we supported it in big numbers. And we were happy to do so because it was a reasonable thing that we were doing. And it was the reason we asked for that and the reason you gave it to us was to exactly block things like this. They're asking for special permits because this is out of scale with the 3-acre piece of property. They can say, well, it's just a little, it's a 2% impervious and it's this and that. You were dead on with the parking. So, let me just look at my notes, because he's got me on. I came here thinking to myself, this is really bad, and that list of things has just sent me over the edge. This is so out of scale with what belongs next to a residential neighborhood. And you're right, you are gonna have to go before the zoning board of appeals, and we'll be there too with more numbers, because we're not gonna accept this, but we did that to do this, to exactly this kind of, I hope you work with us now to do that. The 3 issues I'd like to talk about are the parking, which, I don't want to keep repeating what you said. It clearly says adequate off-street parking has to be. You can't come in here and say, well, they're not going to park on Beaverbrook Road. Guess what? That's not allowed. Nor is it allowed to park on Great Road, Old Great Road. You can't. You have to have a plan that has all the parking on site, and this does not have that. You can say it's an assembly, but once you start serving food, where's the band going to park? Where are the other people going to park, right? You can try, and there is a variance. If you go to a budding property that's within 300 feet, and you get them to change their deed so that it grants you irrevocable ability to do that, then that might be a solution for you. We're going to work to try and make sure that doesn't happen, okay? But there is not enough parking on this. And even with, so here's the other thing. February 24, 2015, this came before you guys before. And a lot of us didn't show up because we read it and it seemed like meditation center. Sounds good. They had some property improvements. Sounds good, sound reasonable, sound in scope. Just a few days after you gave that, we got a letter from the applicant stating that she was going to use it for weddings. Talking about 150, which now is allegedly down to 120. And it said, this is in her letter, the Old Great Road will provide additional parking during bigger events. It's their intent to do that. So he can say, oh, this is the cause for, and we can all sort of close our eyes and pretend that everybody's going to, carpool to the event. That's not going to happen. They're not going to ride in one of those trolleys.
Take the subway.
So the next thing that you guys talked about the environment enough. I'm not going to do that, but there are some requirements of monitoring wells. Are they included in the plan?
No, they're not.
Okay, well, they should be, because they're called for in the bylaws. There's also Natural Heritage and Endangered Species Board. Has that been addressed? Are there any special requirements for that, or is that kind of just on there hoping nobody?
Bruce, do you want me to reply now or wait to the end?
Yeah, well,
For now?
let's, do you want your answers now?
Yeah,
or-
he can answer that.
Relative to the monitoring wells in this area are an issue whereby the Littleton Light and Water request where they should be. Special permits within the Aquifer District, as is the special permits that we've already obtained for this, call out that the applicant shall install any monitoring wells as required by Littleton Light and Water on the property. We don't propose where they go, Light and Water proposes where they go. Littleton Light and Water has a whole series of monitoring wells, downgrading of this closer to well number 2 that exist, and the applicant is fine to put in whatever monitoring wells are requested of them on this site. What was the latter one you asked? I'm sorry. I
We'll
forgot.
check with.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes, the site is within this whole neighborhood. All the houses and the buildings around are within a natural heritage endangered species area. The process by which that is if you had filed a notice of intent, you automatically file that. Otherwise, you file what's known as a MESA application with the state. It's a $300 application. It's filed with the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife for the MESA review. MESA is the Mass Endangered Species Act, which couples with the Natural Heritage Endangered Species Program. And then they review and determine whether there's a take or a no take. We have not filed that yet. We will be filing that.
And that's a separate thing from this.
It's totally separate.
Okay, just a few more points. The applicant knew or should have known what the zoning was when she purchased this property. Working within the constraints of the 3-acre parcel that was purchased is appropriate. Trying to cram something out of scale that will be negatively disrupt the environment and the neighborhood is not. That is not the right thing to do. I know that the Zoning Board of Appeals will take up some of the other issues that they're going to ask for. I understand that. But you wouldn't let me, if you could, you wouldn't let me build a missile silo in my backyard just because another board was going to approve the missile. This thing is loaded for bear, and we can see what's going to happen with it. And we're asking you to help us here and put an end to this, or at least not approve this and make it any easier. And then I would also say, isn't it interesting that they removed the residential unit? Do you know why? Because no resident would want to live next to this thing, right? That was the saving grace in the property before. We knew if they were going to have a resident on site, they weren't going to do anything too crazy because somebody was going to live there, right? And then, let me see, one last thing. I appreciate the list of things, even though I think they're outrageously out of scope. The acoustic music, and maybe this is some kind of a nod to us. This property isn't going to be owned forever by this person, right? Who knows who the next person's going to come in? They're going to be rocking out there. We have children that live right across the street, but we don't want we've all been to weddings, right? You've all seen the staggering people at the end of the night, the loud screaming, the yelling.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I go.
to one of your parties.
I'm an Irish. Go to one of our wigs. It's even better.
Look at the police logs.
We don't want that. I mean, it's not even like it's right next to our neighborhoods. It's not sort of kind of buffered, and I get there'll be some trees or something, but listen, we can see right through there in New England 7 months of the year, and the noise carries no matter what. So this is the reason they're asking for special permits is this is out of scope of the 3 acres, and that's what I have to ask it. I'm asking you to say, no, we're not going to do that. Not this time, and not ever.
All right, Bruce, please.
Mr. Chair and Board, the property is zoned IA, industrial, commercial. The uses, the manufacturing uses, the various different things that are allowed on the site could be much more intrusive than what's being proposed. What's being proposed and the special permits that we're asking for are the special permits to allow for the change in the structure, to keep it within a residential appearance on the structure, to keep it within, to use it within the Aquifer Protection District to enlarge over 15% of the site to 17% of the site. It's allowed to go 15 to 30. We're well on the low side of that. Mind you, if this was going to be a real heavy and commercial industrial use, it would be much closer to the 30% side. There is a set, as you folks are well aware, of a series of guidelines for those special permits to be met. And we have met those relative to the drainage, relative to the aquifer protection, relative to the nitrogen projection for the well area.
And then the setback one too. Just one more point before I shut up, and then I'll let other people talk. I also sent an email to the applicant. She told me that, it could be 150 people, they would use the outside space. So in other words, imagine if I had 150 people on my front lawn, how much noise they would make. right, with a nice peg or two in the middle, my neighbors would hate me for, unless, you know,
And a DJ.
and regular, all the time, right? If I did that every weekend, twice, two days a weekend, the reason Burke Technology is such a great neighbor is because they're not home when we are, right? This is the exact opposite of that, with music and a lot of loud drunk people, and not enough parking, and we all know it.
Do we have any other
Yes.
neighbors who want to speak?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please, identify yourself again.
Yes, Michael Torello from Old Grade Road. Not to cover everything that was just said, but none of you live near Beaverbrook Road. When we moved there 25 years ago, it was a relatively quiet street. It has turned into the most horrific traffic mess that you can imagine. It starts at 7 o'clock in the morning, 6:30 sometimes, and especially since they're clearing the point, every single 16-wheel dump truck goes up Beaverbrook Road. I walk on Beaverbrook Road, or I try to. I feel like I've taken my life in my hands every day. Every 2 minutes, a dump truck goes by in one direction or another. Okay.
Can we keep the
Yes, we can, I'm
discussion
sorry.
to the issue
The
here?
point is that the only reprieve that we have in the neighborhood from all of this noise and all of this congestion are evenings, and not even a Saturday evening, and most all day Sunday. That's it. Now, I'm partially retired, but everybody else works. They come home, they want to relax, not to listen to karaoke or an open mic or dancing or a wedding ceremony with a DJ or whatever's going to be providing the music. There's got to be some quality of life here. That's the reason we moved to Littleton. Now, the trucks I can't do anything about, although they're probably passing over places they shouldn't, but this we can do something about. And whether it's you or the zoning board of appeals, or both, but I think that's important. I did have just a couple of quick questions. Is the barn in the main building air-conditioned, central air?
Yes, it will be.
What's the fire capacity for that building?
Oh, could you identify yourself,
Oh,
please?
sorry. I just thought we were on the same subject. Justine Stedman,
Yeah.
17 Old Great Road, and the barn that's going to be for the ceremonies, it says music and dancing. What's the fire capacity for that building, for that, just that room?
I don't know, I'm not an architect. It's being rated and designed for 120, so I assume 120.
Any other questions from?
I just have a comment. Sean O'Day.
Yeah.
Notwithstanding, I think having a meditation center next to a gun club is a bad business case.
Lose more customers.
I'm fairly new to Littleton. I retired out of the Pentagon after 24 years in the military, and we relocated. I'm from here, but closer to the city. We chose Littleton because it's a suburb, because it's quiet. We're on 31 Beaverbrook, Yellow House setback. It's about 2 doors away from this thing. We have 2 young boys. Some people said they don't have a problem with it, but think if this was in your backyard. Bozo's Big Top and karaoke every night, you know? So I just have that comment to share, that we didn't move to Littleton to have to deal with any of this, and to get away from the city and be in a rural area to bring up our family. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
We have another person?
Hi, Kim Alley at 27 Beaverbrook Road. And I think, I understand this, the consideration before the board tonight is very limited as opposed to what will come up on the zoning board, but I think you can't ignore the fact that they are asking for a special use permit, a special permit. And at the end of the day, the criteria for the special permits is whether it causes a significant nuisance, hazard, or congestion, significant disturbance to the neighborhood, which is why you have this turnout and why you have these overlapping concerns, obviously. And what seems to me to be a great void in all of this is the applicant can still have this use as a meditation center without the variance that she wants here. And that can go forward. There's no reason she has to have that. And we're watching the erosion of the very safeguards put in place to protect the neighborhood with the 150 setback. And those assurances, as Steve Reedy pointed out, that were put in place to make sure this doesn't ultimately erode into a box store has always been the concern. And by allowing each step, whether it be very small tonight here with just the two very specific permits that seem minimal, the ultimate effect can be devastating down the road with the ultimate purchaser. When there is, as the applicant has acknowledged, a tent that is really, it's a bypass act to get around the 150 setback, because that tent is not going to be 150 feet from Beaverbrook and the neighbors that it is, the setback is designed to protect. So if we allow that, when we have knowledge and testimony here today that there will be a tent, there will regularly be a tent, that is eroding that safeguard that's in place, that is really, it makes it meaningless to put it in place to start with. And I think that sends a strong signal to the community for other protections that are put in place that ultimately are eroded back. I've also heard no information on considerations, studies that will affect the traffic, and this parking does affect the traffic, and I don't think you have to live on Beaverbrook to know what a dangerous intersection that is with Bright Road, the accidents that have happened there. You take your life in your hands making a left-hand turn from Beaverbrook onto Bright Road towards the point. I think there are significant voids in what the applicant proposes in ensuring those safeguards to the neighborhood, that we don't have increased hazard caused by all these additional cars that we don't have parking for. I think that's been fully recognized, that you have no accommodations for staff and everything else that goes in there, and that goes precisely to what your board is considering. So we'd ask you to deny it for those reasons as well.
Okay, anybody else?
Joanne Lyon, 10 Beaverbrook Road. My husband and I have lived in 10 Beaverbrook Road for 32 years. And the two biggest things that have occurred over that time is noise and traffic. And while we've put up with the gun club for years, the noise level of this is kind of frightening. And traffic, we taught our kids to pull out of Beaverbrook Road and go right, and go over to Gary's Farm Stand. I thought when the point came in, it would kind of break the action so we could get out and go left. But it's only gotten worse. And my concern would be, when you have a wedding get out, you better have a police officer. I don't know how you would get out that way.
Before any of this would go forward, we'd have comment from the police department, from the water department, from all the other departments. And if there was a concern by the police department, that would certainly be addressed. And if they felt that it rose to the level that a traffic plan needed to be gotten, then we would have to go down that road.
Can I ask Bruce a question?
Please, yeah.
Why do you need the tent? If you have the barn that'll hold 120 people, and you're never gonna have both things going at the same time, why do you need an outside space? Because that's what the neighbors are complaining about, that the noise is gonna be outside of that building. Why do you need a tent?
Because the applicant would like to have the ability of having outdoor facilities. In the summertime, when it's hot, a lot of people like to have outdoor weddings and have outdoor facilities. That's her proposal, that's her request for it. It is 100 feet from the property line. There's 80-plus feet of existing trees, plus another 20 that's going to be landscaped, and this will be enhanced within that as
Why
well.
didn't you take into account the fact that maybe they're doing something, especially on a Friday night, if she's gonna be able to have functions on Friday night from 7 to 10, and 5 to 10, and karaoke from 7:30, you're gonna have an overlap. Where are the 100 people
It's
gonna?
not proposed as an overlap, Mark.
So-
There's less than that. She's one that function at a
One's
time.
at 75 and one, so let me ask you a question. If we're doing karaoke every Friday night, I get to go up and do my karaoke thing, every Friday night, because that's a normal kind of thing, but somebody wants to rent the space on Friday night from 5 to 10 to do a rehearsal dinner for the wedding that they're gonna have the next day, she's gonna say no? Of course she's not. She's gonna, you have to account for worst-case scenario parking when you design, not design as you haven't. You're taking the least path of least resistance, 30 spots. no accounting for how people who are gonna service this are gonna park. Where's the truck gonna go where all the catering equipment goes? That doesn't leave. Where's the truck for the tent that's gonna be left the next day? You have no provision.
See, if we move forward, Mark, we could condition this, that they have only one function.
That's correct. And we have no problem with that, because that's what's intent.
Because that ties directly to the
I
parking.
think I would only consider conditioning it if it was only an indoor function. I don't think the tent is a necessary. It's air conditioned, as you just told us. A lot of people get married inside buildings nowadays.
In terms of the decibels, the industrial area that it's in an industrial area, allows 65 decibels. Residence is 50. So they can actually play anything there, 65, much high, because they're allowed that without, right now, because it's industrial A.
A typical wedding.
We could condition,
It's 80 to 90.
we could condition a much lower decibel
We're
level.
not in the business to regulate people. You've got too much space there. If this was the point, you'd have to account for both those spots where people are gonna congregate, whether or not you think you can regulate by saying, oh, you can't rent it. This is retail. People are gonna rent it any chance they possibly get. You're only putting 30 spaces in there, so I would recommend to the board that we limit either it's inside or it's outside. You can't, I don't think with 30 spaces you can have both.
I totally agree. And we only have the 30 spaces for limiting the project at the moment.
So then
We
I-
want to limit it. We want it limited. We want an inside or an outside option. We want those spaces there. We also, as Richard pointed out, there is the decibel level that exists within the area. These are things that we want, whether there's meditation and no functions permitted or not. This is how we want to have it set.
I don't think you can have both. I don't think you can have a tent on the outside and 120-person space for assembly on the inside.
It will
Don't-
not be two different
You don't-
functions.
you-
That's what I'm telling you. So you limit that with your conditions. There was a comment earlier, what happens when they go to sell? The conditions of the special permit go with
We don't do
the
it
site.
that way. You're asking, let's talk about parking. Let's say this was a commercial property like Donald's or something, and somebody had a high-use restaurant and was going to borrow space from the office space. The only time that works is when they're not both there together. You cannot
100%
guarantee that they're never not gonna both be there together, and you have no.
Yes, we can.
No, you
We
can't.
Why can't we? We can set it up, these are the guidelines that we want, we don't want more than one function at one time, end of story. We are offering the ability for that to be part of a special permit condition, either here or with the ZBA, one function at a time.
Oh, well.
That's the way it's being set up.
What if you had one function and there was 100 people under the tent and 120 in the?
Because that's over the 120 limit that she's asking for.
So she could only have 120
And it's
people there,
also
no matter
limited.
what, when, where, or how.
Correct,
Whether some are under the tent, or some are under the bushes, some are in the building.
correct.
What happens if
That
she's
is- that
having
is correct.
classes there or something like that? I mean, the problem is, you don't have a safety net to it. You're trying to say that they're gonna be mutually exclusive, and they're not gonna be. And you're gonna ask, no, wait a second.
No, wait a minute.
You're gonna
If
ask
you have
them-
120 people there and there's 30 parking spaces, and they have more than 30 cars, guess what? Those people don't go to the wedding.
Of course they are, they're gonna park.
They can't park there. They can't park there. They all get ticketed and they all get towed.
I sent you the photographs of the cars parked on
So
Beaver
let's-
Brook
You
Road.
can't park there.
Let's stop, let's calm down.
You can't park there.
Quiet, please. This is not a free-for-all. We'll never get anywhere if it goes that way. All right, we have another question from the audience.
And that'll be
Question
it.
to Ally, 27 Beaver Brook, and that raises the issue, the applicant's saying this is in our control to have one event. What is not in their control is whether Burke or any other business around there that they want to collaborate with for a parking arrangement, you know, what their events are. And I guess my question to the board is, when's the last time you've approved a permit request like this when you have no information on what that other leasing adjacent property parking arrangement is?
They don't have them.
I mean, we have no information whatsoever, because I don't think they have an arrangement in place, and I think that's a blind request that they're asking.
Question, we'll take one more question.
You get an answer?
I only got one.
All right, go ahead, yeah.
Okay, Justine Stedman, 17 Old Great Road. I bothered to go to all of the industrial places that have parking lots. None of them told me that they were welcoming doing an easement to Soaring Hawk because of the resulting liability of liquor bottles smashed on their driveways, of slip and falls with ice. No one went and said that they were even considering giving an easement for whatever money to Soaring Hawk.
Now, can you address that?
Yeah, please. She did go to the others. I got a call from one of them, one of the owners. She spoke with a tenant at one of the places. Some of them are owned by other people. They have, at least one of the owners I know, because they contacted me, because they had questions. They haven't agreed to, and they haven't agreed not to, and they haven't even been spoken to yet by my client, because my client is not looking for that at this point in time. She had spoken to the two people down front. The electric company here, they're owned by another facility off-site, and the people in control of making the offer weren't there. Others have questioned it.
But you have no off-site.
But we have not established an off-site, and we understand to use that, we have to have that as being part of the permit, and we don't have that before you right
Your
now.
parking numbers are based on the parking that's on that site.
Our use is limited to the parking that's on the site.
One more question.
You said that a few, like one more questions
All right,
ago.
well, looks like there's at least one person that hasn't
I have a quick
spoken yet.
public service announcement. I found a cell phone under the chair in this row.
Oh, it's mine.
If anybody's missing it, okay.
Okay.
But it's so
Can I
bad, you
just
can
add
keep
one
it.
little thing?
We have one from the
Okay.
person who hasn't spoken.
Paul
yet.
Curry, 15 Old Great Road. Karaoke, is this an event that's open to the public? And if that's the case, how do you regulate parking?
Mr. Chair?
Please.
Okay. Karaoke is not listed on here anywhere. I was going to comment, but it seemed pretty soon.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me. Open mic is what is listed. An open mic thing that she's looking at is where it's a non-alcohol event. It's just, you come and you have a chance to play your music, whether you're a budding country star, or a budding folk singer, or whatever. You're coming and you're singing within the inside space, within the area. On evenings, there are several open mic spaces of this sort that exist today, and she's modeling this after one of those that she is familiar and associated
And how do you regulate it?
In California?
Noise, we have karaoke.
No, the number of people. How do you regulate the number of people at
By-
the open mic?
By the
30 parking
parking.
spaces.
By the parking spaces. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a gate, or what, 30
No,
people come
the-
in, the gate goes down?
There's only so
That's
many
it?
parking spaces.
Yeah.
Thirty
The-
spaces?
Yeah, that's it. All right,
Close the public.
we're gonna,
It's total BS.
we want to move to close
You can't do any
this.
dysfunction stuff unless the ZBA approves it.
Hang on now, let's just do the thing to get this to the next stage.
Doesn't have
Can
enough
we
parking.
just do one thing and say, are there any residents here who think it'll have an adverse impact on the neighborhood? Could they raise their hands?
Sure.
That's a visual.
Quite a few. Thank you. Bruce, do you want to close, do you want to close the hearing?
The former,
Does he want to close the hearing?
the former tenant, owner of the building, Mrs. Elides, wished to be here, wished to provide a letter this evening, but was unable to. She did send an email to the applicant, which was forwarded to me, and she thinks that she has met the applicant, and she feels that what the applicant has proposed would be an asset to the neighborhood.
Because she doesn't live there anymore. Right? You know what?
Well, all right.
My mother lives in Woburn, she thinks it's a bad idea.
We're going to close the hearing now.
No, we're not. We're gonna continue it, aren't we?
Well, I've
Close
asked
the open
Bruce if he
part of
wants
it.
to close it or continue it.
He doesn't
But
get
you
the
just said we were gonna
choice.
close it. Do you wanna close it?
Does he have,
I don't wanna close it.
then we'll continue it.
Does the rest of the board wanna close this, or are you?
Continue the hearing.
All right.
We're going to continue here, I'm going to close the open part of it. We're not going to include the audience.
Let's close the comments from the public.
We need,
Okay, so
you can't close this now.
I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing.
I'll entertain, you don't need to just say you wanna continue it.
No,
No.
yeah. I think you should vote on it.
Do we have a motion to continue the hearing?
I'll make
So
a
moved.
motion.
All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it.
Okay, to Thursday, July 9th.
You wanna go drinking that bad?
I do now, yeah.
Thursday, July 9th, that's your next meeting.
So 3
Yeah.
A&R.
I know, and I
It's going to be a busy night.
Took no
Voting quick.
I think you could do this one at 8 o'clock. You have this one, and you'll have, well,
We have
New
5
State
of them.
Road reconstruction.
Right.
So do this one at 8:30?
Probably, yeah. Yeah.
What?
Well, thank you all for coming tonight. Good luck at your ZBA meeting, and we'll probably see you back here on the 9th.
CBA meeting is when? Next week.
Yeah, next week.
7:30.
What else has been going on?
Sit here.
Yeah, ZBA is next door in the family room, usually. Well, look in the paper, yeah, yeah. Drive safe, we'll see you soon, hopefully.
That's a very popular plan you've got there.
Questions that I didn't have time to, but
Oh.
might be interesting.
Okay. Mara, could you take these and into the record and distribute them by email?
Can I give it to Mary? Thanks.
Am I still on or am I off for this one?
I still don't understand your logic. You get 30 spaces and you don't have enough.
Now,
If you've got 120 people going to a wedding, how many people can 4 people?
Folks, we have a meeting
All
to
right.
continue. Take it outside, please.
ladies and gentlemen, we're in the middle of a meeting here, if you would
Please
mind.
take it outside, folks.
Bobby got your tickets.
Thank you.
Got your tickets. What are we doing now? A&R? You know, yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Sorry.
Thanks.
Okay.
All right. Peter, you with us?
Are we? We good?
We're not? Well,
A&Rs.
we are. We have A&Rs to deal.
I promise I'll be fast.
Yeah. Blazing.
I don't know if you guys already have copies of this or not, but I've got some small ones to make life easy. This A&R plan is property that is owned by the Blavies. Alfred and Estelle Blavy. It's cutting out of one, a single lot with a remaining of 40, oh, all right, I gotta put my glasses on, sorry. 43 acres.
43.5.
Oh, yeah?
Most of the remaining land is in chapter 61. I believe it's B or A, I'm not sure. We didn't get a clear reading of it. So this is the only land that's not in the chapter. And basically, it's just to cut out a single lot so they can generate some revenue.
Sue, how could this not be part of the 61A?
We checked with the assessor's office. They said they have a small parcel around the house, which is on the other side.
Yep.
Their house is, if you look on the locus map, is on the other side.
Yeah.
And they said there's another acre and a half that's not in 61, and it wasn't defined, so they said that if we cut out a lot that was less than an acre and a half, it's covered. They would have to go through the whole process with the 120 days and the right of first refusal if they were to do any further lots on this site.
But how can we be certified that this is not in 61A?
But you're not being asked to certify it. You're just asking to do this. When they go to sell it, they have to satisfy, work with the assessors to satisfy that it is not in chapter 61A.
Okay, all right.
Okay. I got no problem with it. I vote to make a motion to approve the A&R.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it.
This is a different Mylar.
Yeah, it's not, it's not this.
That's okay. I wasn't supposed to bring it, was I? Sorry.
Let's go.
They even have pink pens, just in case, so I don't know if you want to pass it or just go.
I'm just gonna sign
Which
it.
one did I do there?
I handed one out.
That
Which
was
one did I do?
Michael Kimball at 36 to Hadawan.
Oh, see, that's next, sorry.
Sorry.
I was on the right road, wrong address.
Jerry, why don't you talk about that one while we're signing it, where we can be more efficient?
Yep, that's what I bring extra.
The next day, I will be signing, so I have to step off on that one.
On Tehadawon? Is that the one that's underneath there?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Just that one. Just that
Just
one.
this one for now.
Okay.
So is this the first time you get to sign a plan?
Oh,
Oh,
wait, we gotta
congratulations.
give him a gold. That's your signature?
You can't do that, you gotta put something down.
that.
I'm just gonna put the
That's like
date on
going to
it.
next step.
All right. All right, so Sherry, can you explain to us what's going
What's
on
happening
here?
on Tehadawon Road?
The Hadawon, right. It's so critical that Mark had to step out of here.
I'm not sure I can explain, but these 3 lots were approved for subdivision and special permit for common driveway, and everything was all done. And then when they were sold to 3 individuals, the 3 individuals got together and decided, at the request of Mike Kimball, who bought lot 1A and who butts to the rear, that he would like to have some buffer here and some views from his house. As you know, he's renovating a house up on Star Hill, and it overlooks these lots. So the 3 owners that bought these 3 lots have agreed that they would take this buffer, and we have the engineer draft 3 parcels that we can all swap and exchange that do not change the coefficients on the 3 existing lots.
What are the 3 existing lot sizes?
Lot 1A.
The
Sorry.
remaining lot sizes?
So who owns 1A?
1A is owned by Michael Kimball, and that's going to be 3.355 acres, new lot 1A.
2A?
2A is owned by Mark Montanari, and that's going to result in 3.108 acres.
And-
The first one, 1A, has reduced frontage, the second one has full frontage, and the third lot, 3A, will result in 4.579 acres reduced frontage again.
And the
there's-
fire truck turnarounds are still intact?
The common drive didn't change.
Well, wait a minute, the common drive, when this was originally approved, it didn't seem like we went through any of these, some of these things got a little quick. Is there a 3 turnarounds? Every 300 feet, there's an 8-foot turnaround,
We're
or
not
those?
changing anything
This is
on
an A&R.
that. This is an A&R. All we're doing is lopping off the back of 2 lots. Doesn't change anything on the common driveway, doesn't change access. We're just lopping
Just
off
a
land
swap.
in the back. So what's gonna happen is, are you looking at the same plan I'm talking about? You just didn't get up to see. New parcel X, parcel B, parcel C, and parcel D are all gonna be conveyed to the abutting Mike Kimball parcel.
That will go up to the Star Hill end?
Yeah.
Not this, not the
Right.
lower end?
Right, and none of those are building lots, they're just gonna be additional land added to Mike Kimball's land.
So Mark, you're recusing yourself for what reason?
I own the
He
middle.
owns the middle lot now.
You
He
own
bought
the middle lot?
I own the house in the middle, yes.
He bought the Dr. Smith house. By the way, Dr. Smith passed away.
That's already here. Where are we signing it?
Isn't it down
Do we
there?
need to vote on this?
We do.
You do need to vote on it.
Yes.
Entertain a motion to approve the A&R
Keep going.
as is.
As
proposed.
proposed on plans dated such and such.
Whatever.
Do we have a motion, do we have a second? Peter? Ed?
I don't know, what are the implications? This is my first understanding of an A&R and somebody recusing themselves.
A&R stands for approval not required.
I'm understanding that.
Well, actually,
I'm trying to
when you
understand
change a
what the
lot line, you
implications
do
are.
have to have approval by the planning board.
Right, approval
I know,
under
but-
the subdivision control law is not required. You don't have to go through a subdivision,
Right.
you go through this
So-
A&R process for lot line changes.
Right,
It
and
looks
it's still-
very
So it
straightforward.
meets the
So you have to go
coefficients.
through a new
It
A&R?
still takes, exactly, it still
Right, so
takes
this-
vote by the planning
Right.
board.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Are we voting on this? or-
So this is a new A&R, actually.
No.
Even though we approved one previously for the same property, this is a new one.
New one, correct.
This is a new one.
Yeah.
And in the last one, I don't think we ever addressed the 75-foot turnaround or any of the turnouts, or any of that.
You're right, you don't
You
do
don't
that
do
in
that
A&R.
in an A&R. You did it in the special permit granted for a driveway.
Right,
Special permit requirements.
right, that's not A&R. That's-
We don't have a special permit in front of us.
You did that a couple months ago.
For the
A year
driveway,
ago.
for the common driveway. And if you recall, they were here and they talked about the drainage and the abutters were here and you.
Yeah, that wasn't that long ago. It wasn't a year ago.
No, a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
I think it was the May meeting.
I wasn't
Hmm.
But so an A&R, the definition of an A&R is these new lots satisfy all of the dimensional requirements for, and
Reads the checklist.
Legally, you can look at area and frontage.
That's it.
Say what?
You can look at area and
And
frontage.
frontage, that's right. And, but we
And the
do have to vote on a lot line change.
So I just want to ask the question then. Center lot meets the frontage requirements.
Correct, and the
The other
area.
two, and the other two do not?
they meet the frontage requirements because 35 feet is the requirement for a
That's right.
hammerhead.
Okay.
As
Yeah.
long as you have 2+ acres.
That's right.
Okay.
And that, this one does, and this is 35 at least plus 2+ acres.
And there's less than 3 off the driveway.
Okay?
Okay.
Yep.
Wasn't it, what was,
So
what
we
was
have-
that
we
other
have a
thing that had to do
motion.
with?
Motion to approve
Now we-
A&R.
Something else about 2 hammerhead lots on the
No
same
two
lot?
no 2 hammerheads in a row. You have to have hammerhead, regular frontage, hammerhead frontage, no 2 hammerheads in a row.
So there's gotta be a board between the 2 hammers.
35, 150.
So we need a second.
Yeah?
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes, I didn't hear an aye from the fourth person, so I'm assuming the
Aye.
ayes have it.
Come on now, I wanna know who this guy is.
Mark, when'd you buy it?
4 weeks ago, 5 weeks ago.
When'd you buy a house like that up on a hill all by yourself? You got such a nice place on King Street.
That's why I bought it, to get away from being in a fishbowl.
Come on.
It's a beautiful house.
Yeah, it is
Come up and
nice.
take a look at it.
You'll invite me to your house?
That house there, just come up on Friday night.
All right, I'm gonna take you up on that.
Friday night after 6
Okay.
o'clock, come up and take a look at it.
We need a vote.
Are we done?
We need a motion.
Kimball Farm,
2 more?
A&R, yes.
Oh, there's still another one? Yeah.
Two more.
All right, let's go.
Can I open this one? Let's do that real quickly.
Now you're back on. 2 more. You gonna recuse yourself for those, too?
He's got to because he's a neighbor.
Oh, you're not on this one.
He has to because,
I don't think so. This has never really been.
yeah. When you're a neighbor, when you're a butter, you have to,
Yeah, I'm not a neighbor on this one.
Which one's this? This is an A&R for who?
oh, Kimball. Great Road, he's changing the lot line. What was the lot line before? That's my curious.
Wait. I don't think I want to do this one next. I want to do the other one first, I think.
Which
Can
one?
I have 2?
Is this 2 Mylars or 1?
Let's just not go signing things all without some kind of, I wanna see what the hell this is about.
That's the next one that's on
I know,
the
it's,
agenda.
that's the one on
Okay.
8.
All right.
You want this one?
Is it yours or mine?
What are these?
I only signed 1 Mylar, that's all I'm required, correct? I only need to sign 1.
Oh, this is Action Survey. Okay, so this is the existing village on the common land, and they are creating a parcel. Oh, this is where,
Are you representing Mr. Moran in this? Or Michael Kimball in this?
no, this isn't Marin, this is Mike Kimball's.
So you're
right.
representing him
Yes.
in this?
Before we start, could you give kind of a brief outline of what's happening here?
Yes. This is the land that Mike Kimball bought at foreclosure auction, which we all know as Village on the Common. This is the land that has currently a comprehensive permit for 108 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the buildings were constructed but have never been occupied and have never been completed.
Where the hell did that shit go?
This is a proposal to carve out 1 parcel with 4 buildings, leaving 2 buildings on the Kimball Farm Village on the Common Land.
Yep.
There's no plans for it just yet. It's just to carve out a lot. And this lot is conforming.
Where is that?
Now, Mr. Kimball is carving it out for himself, correct?
Right now, Mr. Kimball is carving it out for himself.
This is it right here.
And so,
He is taking
Parcel 101.
4.6 acres
Yes.
And he's cutting the 6 houses out of it?
And there's 4
of
houses
them.
that are going to be
Yeah.
contained
1, 2,
within the
3, 4.
4.6 acres.
And then,
So this, the, which
many acres
which
are
lot
coming out of
lines
it?
existed before, Sherry? Can you help us?
There wasn't one, was
so
there?
you're creating,
This is the lot. It was one undivided lot that goes all the way around the edge here.
all right.
When you say it was one undivided lot, you come in from Great Road,
You come in from Great Road.
and then the line directly in front of you that runs horizontal?
This is the road right here that comes up back out to Great Road.
Yeah.
This is what he's trying to cut off, these 4 acres with these 4 houses.
Right.
This right here will now become a landlocked property?
No, that's the
No,
front,
that's
that's,
on Great Road.
No.
that's,
This
yeah,
is
that's,
on Great
well,
Road.
that's the car dealership,
What is the
All
triangle?
of this is all,
the car dealer.
Was the triangle part of Mike Kimball's land?
No, that's,
what is this gonna be?
that's not.
That's part of the car dealership. That's not Mike Kimball's land.
That's that orphan piece of property that
That's,
Moran owns.
that's where he wanted to put the park, the cars.
And so,
That's for what?
He wanted to park the cars. That
This
piece.
is now cutting off of the giant piece.
102s.
yep.
Yep.
Just that.
Yep,
And we'll still have the frontage.
yep.
No, that's not his. Where you put your finger was not the piece.
This
101 is the piece.
This is the piece.
Neither
That's
one
the
of them.
triangle.
Yeah, from there to there is on the
Yeah.
road that's
No,
already
101 is the
built.
piece.
That's right.
Right.
This is what he's cutting off.
Yeah.
Not all this, that.
Just that.
Well, in one of the applications, it certainly looks like it says 40 acres, not 4 acres.
It should say
4.6.
4.6 in this one, but on the
4.6, so
And
application.
it's not a road, it's a driveway?
It's 4.6, Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a road yet.
Well, this one, this right here, this application certainly looks like 40 acres, or is that 4.0?
Should be 4.6.
Well, there ain't a 6, and it's not, certainly not a point.
Well, the Mylar says 4.6.
It's 4.6.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
this
good with
does
that,
say,
but that-
no,
that
this does say
application-
40 acres.
It says 40 acres. So,
It does say 40.
well, geez, thanks. My eyes aren't completely
It should
gone.
have said 4.6. I will amend it. Say 4.6.
So,
So what do you need to do?
Say 4.6. It's
well,
Now, you know, this is
Well,
not a,
That's
this,
actually my copy, you can amend it with
Yeah.
Maren's
this is
copy.
not a building lot. This is just a perimeter plan.
It's just a perimeter
Yep.
thing.
So it's, we're not endorsing this as a building lot.
That's correct. You're not endorsing.
Nothing, according to the use of this, is changing. All we're changing tonight is we're adding some lines to a piece
And
of
it reads
paper.
that way in the notes. Parcel 101 to be subdivided is not a building lot.
Yeah.
It is to be adjoined to a budding property
Eventually, probably.
of somebody's. We don't know what's going to happen yet. But it's sort of, you know, preparatory to trying to figure out what to do with those 6 partially built houses. And eventually, they've got to do something with that, otherwise it's a huge waste.
Okay.
Sherry, is Moran coming back to us with a parking proposal?
I don't know what Moran's plans are. I don't represent him.
So do we need to vote to get this
We
done?
do need to
This-
vote on this, so we need a motion to accept the A and R as according to that set of plans, according to that date, whatever it is.
I'll make a motion to approve the Mylar in front of us for parcel 101 for 4.6 acres, understanding that it's not a buildable lot, it's a perimeter plan.
So
Right?
moved.
It is.
how can we call it not a buildable lot where it has 4 structures built on it?
It says right on it, on the plan, it's not a buildable lot. That's the problem with this. This is part of the 40B, that's why the 4 structures are there.
Well, I just wanted to, you might not like it, Jerry, but I just want to know why the hell they can call it a not a buildable lot where it has 4 structures.
It's got no frontage.
Because those
What's that,
structures
what is
can't be
that road? They're all right on the street.
I don't think that's a.
That's
It
not a
doesn't-
subdivision.
That's not a subdivision road.
That
Can't be
condition,
occupied until
that
we do
condition
something.
doesn't need to be in this.
Where is this?
But it's already in it. He'd even put it in there. It's not a buildable
It's
lot.
still in effect, isn't
It
it?
doesn't have to be, but it's in
Ends
there.
up the- So
Parcel
if we
is not a
subdivide the piece,
buildable
that
lot.
was the 40B permit.
That condition
Yeah.
shouldn't be in
And
there
we're
because
subdividing the lots that
He's,
have, that hold the
he's
40B
telling because he has no
license, we'll have to do
frontage.
that.
It's not a buildable lot.
40B
That's what we
goes
don't
away,
want to put
doesn't
in
it?
there.
It's still in his name, nothing. If that 101 gets sold to anyone else, that changes his comprehensive permit, and he would have to go back for a modification of the comprehensive permit.
So I'm just trying to understand the implications of what occurs if we approve this.
Absolutely nothing, as long as it's marked not a building lot, because you can't do anything with it until he does something. He's either got to create frontage, he's got to deed it to someone else, he's got to
But Sherry,
modify his permit.
with this statement that it's not a buildable lot, do we then declare it never, ever to be able to be built on?
No, it's just this particular Mylar is not a buildable lot.
At this time in
At this
junction.
time, at this
Because there's
time.
no, he has no frontage on it.
Correct.
Because that
So
road has
some-
never
so
been
it
approved,
becomes
that-
contiguous with another
there's a
place.
road there, but it's
There's a
not
road there, but
approved.
it's
back.
not-
It's not
it's
frontage
frontage on a public
So,
way. It's
actually,
a private
he-
road right now.
He does have a driveway,
It's not frontage for those
Not
homes
frontage.
yet.
and according to the, any driveway can access you to an address.
Not if there's no frontage. You
Not if
can't-
there's no
You
frontage.
can't get a building permit to finish
You're right.
those
You
homes
need
as
35 feet-
freestanding homes.
35 feet on a
Public
public way. Okay,
So discussion's over?
discussion's over.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Sweet.
Aye. All right, the ayes have it, sign the plan.
I took the pen. Everybody's got
He's gonna try to take it off now? Okay, you got it.
It took a couple of tries. Two?
There's
We
two of them
signed
here,
two?
or is there a second Mylar?
There are two plans.
It's two plans have to get recorded together because of the scale. I guess he's got to show.
Because of the scale?
Yeah. I guess he wanted to show.
Are we done?
One more. Sherry's done.
Why do I
We're-
smell a rat here?
No, don't ask me. This has nothing to
You
do with
smell a
me.
rat. That's right.
Who smells it?
You smell a rat.
Hey, come on, you gotta put more than in.
I see cars, I see
Seriously.
somebody making an
You can't
attempt to
do
put
that. Is
cars
that your
there.
legal signature?
I see somebody making an attempt to put cars
Can't you
there.
give us a little, somebody needs to.
Do that.
You can't do that.
But what we're signing tonight doesn't say that,
Oh
so.
my God, he's on his license that way.
How the hell can you do that, kid? E?
I wish I was your kid. I'd be writing notes all day long.
Gentlemen,
No, we're not done
We have
yet.
one more,
There's
Rich.
one- There's one more Mylar.
Not
before
done
you.
yet.
oh, boy. Okay, let's,
Notes?
let's be seated. We have one more,
By the time I got to the point where I could,
please.
What are you, conserving letters?
The next A&R is,
no. Great road, at the end of the day,
All right.
sometimes I like
Next to this property, actually.
I have a copy, I have a reduced size copy. You don't?
I have no idea. What's this one?
Where'd you come from?
This does not create any new lots, it is a lot line change. So it's taking just the lot line and shifting it to the left. It's kind of hard to see there, so I brought a plan.
Is this the Fletchers that we're looking at?
Correct. Great Road adjacent to the Sylvan Park. Here's a full-size plan, color-coded for your pleasure. So there's three lots involved because currently the lot line goes down this highlighted portion, so you have 1, 2, 3 lots. This is Robbins Lane, which is an unimproved lane. So they're shifting the property line from this side of Robbins Lane to this side of Robbins Lane, and then conveying these two strips from this parcel to this parcel and this parcel, and that's all we're doing.
oh, so it's a Fletcher to Fletcher, just adjustment of a lot line.
Shift, we're not creating any new lots, the lots,
Yeah,
are
yeah.
just, instead of the lot line being on this side, it'll be on this side, so this
Is
lot
that
gets
back lot
smaller.
get frontage because of Robbins Lane?
No, this is,
I
yeah.
know it's a paper road, but we know the story behind that. Then why wouldn't they leave that as one lot, front and back? Why?
This is the one that we've already approved
Yeah,
for 6
you see?
lots.
It doesn't matter, right? Who cares? Is that what you're telling me?
Yeah.
This was the
All right,
one,
so
this
be
is
it.
the parcel that
This-
has
Make a
a
motion to accept the
6
drawing
lot
as drawn.
subdivision.
Correct.
Right, so this
All right.
already been subdivided for 6 lots.
So
We already approved the subdivision on top of it.
Correct.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the A&R plan of road, Great Road, Route 2A 119, dated June 10th, 2015.
Second.
Second.
We have a second.
Discussion?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
That was beautiful.
The ayes have it.
Well done.
How far behind are we? 9:30, an hour.
Gentlemen, we're done for the night. We'll see you again on June
Salud, July.
6th, July 6th.
Nine.
Peter, you want to take